All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC 326, Holloway versus Oliveira 2, taking a look at the upcoming UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Vallejos, and of course, talking through the huge announcement of the White House card. To do all of those things with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, the all-time great Ohio player, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, brother?
I'm doing very, very well. Of course, it is Monday. We had fights on Saturday, and they, of course, were something that we can have a great discussion about. So we'll leave it at that for now. And of course, I'm excited to get into the more pressing matters.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of an up, down, and all over the place when it comes to this show. I suppose there's a lot to go over. So, really, usually we might talk through some of the other stuff that we watched throughout the week as far as fights go. I mean, there was a couple things here and there. The only thing I really want to just at least touch on very, very briefly is I did watch Ryzen. Patchy Mix made his debut in Ryzen. The only thing you really need to know about that, the card was very good. There were a lot of really good fights on the Ryzen card, so I would recommend watching Ryzen 52 if you have a chance to do so. And B, Patchy Mix looked just as poor as he did in the UFC in Ryzen. He looked absolutely terrible. He looked stiff. His striking was awful, and he ended up getting annihilated. Actually, I believe that was the first time he had ever been finished. I want to say. I think that's what they had said on there, that it was a full on. He was knocked out cold. So if that is the case, then it was fitting as a conclusion to that fight. So that's really all you need to know from Ryzen.
No, absolutely. Love to hear it. Did not love what I saw from Patrick Mix in the UFC, but shout out to him. But quick shout out to the chat real quick before we get into anything
Of
else. We'll do it
course.
real quick to the two people who are here real quick. Mank, of course, I saw you here first. I really appreciate that, of course. And then Jeremy Hall. Love to see it. What's up, man?
Absolutely appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here. And yeah, like I said, I just want to get that out of the way real quick because, of course, we have to get into the big, somewhat political elephant in the room, I suppose. Let's take a look at it. This is your announcement that was made just last Saturday during during the UFC event. We had the big reveal of the White House card, UFC Freedom 250. And if you are watching right now, we have the fights listed out on screen. Of course, we are going to go over each and every one of these, at least, to talk it through a little bit. We are going to go into more detail as we get closer to the fights. Of course, we will be watching these fights. We will be talking through them at length as they are occurring. But we had to touch on them because they were revealed last night. So before we get into the actual nuts and bolts of it, Chase, overall impression, and then we'll go down the list.
Actually, before I do that, shout out John Dong. I see you,
Oh,
man. And
come on.
now, yeah, now we'll get into it. Shout out Mank one more time. And so this card is very interesting because while it is just the what is it, 6, 7 fights? Is that what we got here? Um, 6? I can't
Six.
read.
Yeah, six
Yeah,
fights.
6 fights. I mean, at first we were told it was going to be bangers, just one main card potentially, and they were kind of firm on the lighter side of potentially that there was a good likelihood that there was going to be 6 title fights is what they were kind of alluding to, and by they I mean Dana White specifically and the organization, but that is not what we got here. So Thinker, what do you think about that initially, about this not being 6 title fights?
Yeah, what I said first and foremost, two is a lot less than six. That was definitely my initial observation. And then, I mean, really, the overall impression for me is it not the worst that it could be, of course, but certainly not what we were led to believe. I want to say that's really what I think it comes down to. Because my big note, what I had seen going around in the community at least, and I think Ariel Hawani has kind of led the charge on this, is that expectations were too high for this card. People were expecting too much, and I'm like, this card is taking place at the White House and has been sold to us as the greatest event potentially of all time. This does not seem to be that.
I definitely agree with you. I mean, I'm not gonna be. We'll definitely talk. Listen, we'll talk about these fights more in depth later. We'll talk about them individually here in a second. But I think the main thing that's missing, and I think it's the biggest flop on the UFC's part, is Kayla and Amanda. And I know Kayla was injured, obviously, and she is injured, so she's not going to participate here. But they we're gonna have that fight way before this. They didn't even try. Like, and that's like the most that could have been, to be honest. I mean, looking at some of these fights, I mean, Kayla and Amanda is low key kind of a banger in my opinion. I think that would end up being a really good fight, especially for being on this card. But they probably won't do that. You know, obviously they're not going to, but like they just weren't going to do it for some odd reason, and I don't know what that is. But the names that we got here, I mean, for fuck's sake, are we serious? Like, come on.
That yeah, really. I mean, this is exactly what I keep going back to, and people love to be thrown around like their big brain saying, "Oh, if you don't like this card, you're a casual." And I'm like, "No, that is not what this is. Trust, I will be. I'd be on your side if it made sense. This is not that." So you're right. No Kayla versus Amanda. Definitely, that's a big loss there, or a big potential that did not happen. And then to me, I mean, no Conor McGregor and no John Jones. I mean, like, and I'm not a fan of John Jones. You know that very well. But these are names that would have made sense for a card of this magnitude.
Dude, we have Sugar Sean O'Malley coming off of mediocre performances. What are you talking about? Like, this is a
Right.
great pull, you know?
Yeah, and that's another one that had been talked about, O'Malley, without the Corey Sandhagen, which was a easy layup as an America versus America fight that could have happened here. But yeah, so I mean, like I believe that the sentiment that is going around with people saying that this is an underwhelming reveal for the magnitude that this card was sold to us as this $70 million or whatever, 60 million, 70 million, whatever, this multiple $1 million event that is taking place on the lawn of the White House. I believe that we were well within our rights to think that we were getting the best card that could have ever been, and this not necessarily being that.
Well, the best card that could have ever been, you know, potentially what their ideas could have been. You know, we there was a tweet going around that somebody had posted about Steve Garcia and the reason that he was potentially, you know, I think it was a quote from, you know, some article, some podcast he did or whatever, that one of the reasons that he was selected to be on the card is because, you know, they had asked him, does he have any prior history with, the law or, anything law enforcement, whatever you want to say. And that potentially is going to play a part for why a lot of people did not get on this card. You know, I brought it up. You know, that is maybe a reason why Derek Lewis is not on this card. You know, I don't know specifically, but I believe there had been some past issues with him.
Yeah,
Um,
Derek Lewis, Jorge Masvidal, Conor McGregor, even really to an extent.
right.
John Jones. I mean, all those people really. Yeah, there are considerations, of course, when it comes to that, and that does make sense. But I mean, give me a break, dude. In the times that we are living in right now, with as lawless as things are in general, do you really mean to tell me that there could not have been strings pulled when Dana White is literal best friends with the president? Like,
Yeah.
I don't buy that. But as you said, rumors have been swirling around as far as why this is the card that we got. There was a lot of discussion. Dana himself has quashed this one rumor, but I will still bring it up, of course, that Topuria was in discussions to be fighting Islam Makhachev, which of course is the biggest fight, in my opinion, that could possibly happen right now, period. Regardless of division, regardless of anything else, like that is the super fight to make right now. And we apparently, as far as the rumors go, that was in discussion, but that fell through. I don't know how much stock to put in that. One rumor that I had heard before this card was that there would be no Russians on the card for, various political reasons. That turned out to be true, but it would not have been if it was Islam. So hard to know exactly what the truth of anything behind the scenes is when it comes to all of this stuff. But this is what we ended up getting here. So how do you want to attack this thing, Chase? Do you want to just go from the bottom? You want to go from the top? How you want to just, I mean, give brief, we don't need to go into all of our predictions necessarily, but I think we should talk through the fights a little bit.
Well, the first fight that we can start with is honestly my favorite fight. I think this one is probably the biggest sleeper of the card to start this card with Diego Lopez and Steve Garcia. I mean, that's potential to be a really, really good fucking fight. Like, holy shit. I mean, it really depends if Steve Garcia is going to be able to defend the takedowns or Lopez ragdolls him, but the striking, it should be really fun. I would say Diego Lopez might he's going to try to stand and bang in the White House, I would say. So,
Sure. No, yeah, absolutely. That honestly, of the fights on this card, that is potentially, I think, the one that has like the most like fireworks over the length of the fight potential. You know what I mean? Like depending on how they navigate that fight, the two of them, that could be a war that goes on for quite a while and could have some really choice moments. Garcia, as tough as they come, you know, a guy who I think has been a little bit of a sleeper unnecessarily just because he's not a huge personality. But, you know, if you are aware of Steve Garcia, you know exactly what you're getting out of him. Diego Lopez, obviously a household name and a fan favorite at this point. Kind of another, another note, I guess a general note I will say is that a lot of these fighters seem to have failed upwards when it comes to this card. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of Diego Lopez, so don't take it as a slight to him personally, but Diego gets this odd second title shot that he didn't necessarily deserve with Volk, loses that, and is now on the White House card.
Diego Lopez, if you guys didn't know, he's been on all of the biggest cards in the past, UFC, in the 2020s or whatever. So when it came to the 30th anniversary card on, 295 or whatever the hell it was, I don't know how they broke it down. There was a tweet about it he posted, but either way, there was that one. He was on with Alex, and then there was 300. They were both on, him and Alex specifically. But then when you got Diego Lopez, he was at the Sphere. Alex wasn't there. But then now come to the UFC White House card. They are reunited. And Lopez and Alex, I'm pretty sure they are undefeated on the cards together. So hear me out, guys. I think we're going to roll into this with good momentum.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I undefeated on the cards. Like on, when I guess big cards. If sure, if you want to look at it that way, then fine. I agree though. I do think that it's going to be a good fight to start things off. That is one thing that I think we have come to understand is that as far as the construction of cards go, the UFC generally understands that you need to hook people early. So a good banger opener fight should be that fight, I'm hoping.
Absolutely. And before we get into the second one, I actually see the chat talking about this one, but we're going to shut out the chat just one more time because we're
Okay.
getting a lot of traffic here right quick. Jeremy Hall, one more time. I appreciate you. Mank, one more time. Toby, thank you for stopping by. Yusuf, I appreciate you right here. This comment right here, Bo Nickel and Dowcus, big bullshit. That second fight, definitely big bullshit. We're going to talk about it, but we're going to shout out my boy, Marvin. Yo, hell yeah.
Yo, indeed. Absolutely. Thank you guys. Appreciate you being here. So I mean, going up the card a little bit, let's talk about Nickel and Dawkins. What we had said, or what the conversation, at least on some of my streams, has been, is I don't dislike this fight in general. Do I think that it is worthy of being on the White House card? That's debatable. I understand, you've got America versus America here, so that tracks. Nickel, a guy who I would say is a dude who has a little bit of Dana White privilege. We'll talk about the next fight coming up with someone else who has that. Yeah, exactly. So, there's that. And then Dawkins, I mean, understandable that he has been getting better treatment now, but it is interesting to me that 3 fights ago, Kyle Dawkins was just returning to the UFC. I mean, this is a guy who was, he had the Mason Jones issue going on here. He had to go outside the UFC and get himself right, but has been looking great since he's come back, has been getting finishes since he's come back. So I do understand that element of it. And I'm okay with the fight. Am I okay with the fight for this? Debatable.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Bo Nickel on UFC 300, that's the only thing that I find kind of crazy is that, when you look at these 3 names, Diego Lopez, Alex Pereira, Bo Nickel, they were all on 300. Actually, was Roofy wasn't? No. Anyway, so
No.
when you look at all these names, they were on 300 together. But then when you lump Bo Nickel into it, having him on the White House one as well, and we know that he's not necessarily the greatest talent. He's just the political guy in the sport that they need him on the White House card kind of deal. But it kind of bogs down the fact that you're like, 300 is the greatest combat sports spectacle ever. Bo Nickel's on facing Cody Brundage on it, and then you're like, here's the greatest sports event ever. And then you have Bo Nickel and Kyle Dawkins. It's like, well, you can't even like say that it's not political at that point. Political in the sense that like they just got to have him on there because everybody loves him. America loves him, so he's got to be on the main card of 300, even though he's a prelim fighter at that time. So it's just unfortunate to see that the UFC is supposedly not, kind of, they're supposed to take it by the books, judge every ranking by the books, but it is very leaning into the entertainment aspect, and we are definitely getting into that when it comes to these spectacle events.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, this has to be a spectacle because this is what it is supposed to be. I mean, this is a spectacle event, so you need to make it as flashy as possible. Does Bo Nickel like signal that? Not necessarily by himself, but maybe Kyle Dawkins with the run that he's been on can make that interesting. As I said, multiple times, do I like the fight? I think that it would be a fine fight if I saw that fight on your run of the mill pay per view as a
Apex
yeah,
would be
or
great.
headlining an Apex card. That would be great too. That kind of thing is fine. Like, there's a number of places that it would make sense for this. And I keep looking down, and I'm not going to bring it up, but if you look in the bottom
I
corner
saw this
here,
too. You need to click it. Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Well, how about we go through the rest and I'll click
Okay.
it after that. But yeah, there's like this card that was like the mock-up of like what we really wanted, and it's like you compare that to what we're getting here, and like you'll see the difference in the quality level of what we were thinking it could have been. So, Dawkins and Nickel, we talked that through. Let's talk about Mauricio Hoofy versus Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler, this is the one that kills me the most. It kills me the most because of the matchup and then Michael Chandler. This man, I do not know what Michael Chandler either has on Dana White or has done for the organization behind the scenes, or why he is in the Dana White privilege camp that he is in. But you want to talk about failing upwards. Michael Chandler has failed his way onto the White House card after legitimate failure after failure. This makes no sense to me, aside from himself saying that he's Captain America. That's, just because you're American does not make you Captain America, except he's Mr. Inspirational Speeches.
You're getting into the point that I was going to say. The only thing that I can think of is Dana White has personally seen, and we've actually seen it in the last fight with Patty, but Michael Chandler bleeds, and when it bleeds, it's red, white, and blue, brother. I mean, he is just a true American. I always think of him like an old like the old God damn, I can't even think of the words now. But either way, he's like an old Mustang kind of deal. Like he's the old
Like a
American
muscle
muscle.
car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I think of Michael Chandler. That's why he's here. He's the American muscle, like right on the card. I love that kind of comparison for him.
Sure, and like again, I get it. Like, I'm not, it's not like it's not tracking in my mind as to why, but it's just hilarious that it is him after the lineage in this organization that he has had. I
Yeah.
mean, we have seen him lose so many times. We have seen him really. I mean, yet another time where, I mean, this was the really the funniest one to me was somebody had said finally Chandler gets to fight McGregor, sort of. You know what I mean? He gets to fight the discount McGregor and Mauricio Hoofy. I thought that was pretty funny. But the reason I bring that up is we've seen McGregor lose, and we've seen Chandler lose, and we've seen him tailing McGregor, begging for a fight for multiple years, at least multiple months and months and months. He was doing that about a year and a half. That's what we've seen from Michael Chandler, and now he's on the White House card.
It's just absolutely crazy. Most of the people on this card have not been performing to the best of their ability, nor have that been showing in the stat sheet kind of deal. You have Diego Lopez, who just came off of 2 broken feet. Nobody's really mentioning that. He's been at all the events standing up and cheering. But,
True.
I listen, fractures, broken, same thing.
Right.
He's fine. He's gonna be ready for the White House,
So
which, well, more people, I mean, obviously, go ahead, sorry.
No. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
You're fine.
I was just saying, I just wanted to at least, talk about Hoofy a little bit being on this card.
Yeah.
I mean, Hoofy obviously has the flashiness that people enjoy there. I think that, shout out to Meat Rocket in the chat. I see you, brother. I think what he's saying kind of tracks. Chandler can come through and probably just get his hands on him, wrestling him around. So that might end up negating the things that put Hoofy on this card, which kind of would make it a little bit of a wash.
Yeah, no, I kind of like the thought process, but Michael Chandler not performing as the best. I don't know if I would put my money on somebody who's like 0-4 in the last, 4, whatever it is. So I don't know.
Sure. So, I mean, all right, fair enough then. So, yeah, Chandler versus Hoofy. Uh, think what you want to think about that after we talked it through. Next up is Sean O'Malley versus Eamon Zahabi. This I think is actually a better fight than people are giving it credit for. But again, is it White House worthy?
It's not White House worthy because Sean O'Malley has not been performing to the best of his ability in the last couple of fights, not even really winning all, majority of them. And then the last performance, he really thought he did a lot more. He still has this overconfidence about himself. And, he is a star and he is American, so he is here. But in my opinion, I I would have liked to see somebody else, pass the opportunity on to somebody else. Sugar Sean O'Malley, your time is up. But in all reality, I think Zahabi has a really good opportunity to shock the world here. And
Oh, same. Yeah.
it's crazy to think because I personally wasn't believing in him too much, a couple fights ago. But after Jose Aldo, after Cheeto Vera, this dude's he's a warrior. I kind of fuck with him.
Oh yeah, no, he's legit. I've been with Zahabi for a while. He was just inactive for a really long time, and that I think was holding him back. But now that he's been a little bit more active, yeah, I'm okay with that aspect of things. And to your earlier point, O'Malley is a star. Is O'Malley actually as much of a star as the UFC wants him to be? That's my question. Because I really do feel like you want to talk about hot shotting in this sport. There is no greater example than Sean O'Malley to me. I mean, this is a person who was legitimately like engineered by the organization to be in the position that he eventually got to. Does he live up to that hype, especially now? I really don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if it, like, maybe younger people, and I'm a little bit out of that age range, so I don't know what like the boots on the ground are for like the young element of the sport, like the 420 Blaze It kids, and like the 6ix9ine fans of the world, like maybe they're still into him a little bit, but like I gotta believe that the bloom is off of the O'Malley rose at this point. So it just seems like another one where it's like, take this because we are telling you that he is a star.
Yeah, it's social media influence, man. I don't know.
I guess, perhaps. All right. Well, so, but no, I do agree with you on Zahabi. I think that this is a big opportunity for him, and would be kind of fun to see the Canadian pull it off on the White House lawn. That would be interesting.
Uh, Honestly, a lot of people were questioning why he was able to pull this off. I mean, I think one of the things that I said when I initially saw this is I was like, doesn't Zahabi have like personal ties to some person in power in the Canadian thing? I could be I swear they used to say this, or not used to, but still currently say this on like the commentary group. They're like, oh yeah, he's blah 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 blah. His uncle's the such and such, or he's best friends with the
Oh
such
well,
and
I mean,
such.
his brother is Faraz Zahabi, the coach at TriStar,
No, but
right?
there's like something about it's like some prince, something.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's something that I've has slipped by me, but
Maybe the chat can enlighten me real quick,
yeah,
but
perhaps. Let us know about Eamon's hobby in the chat if you know what Chase is referring to there. But yeah. So I mean, while we're waiting to hear something back about that, we can move up to the co-main event of
shout out
this thing.
CTE.
Oh yeah, well shout out to CTE, shout out to Tyler Betts, Audio Kitty Cat, see you as well, and earlier Sanjay, really appreciate seeing you as well, my guy. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Now we can
Um,
talk about this fucking banger.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's talk about it. We'll see if that's the impression. Obviously, this is Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gahn. Alex Pereira making his debut at heavyweight for the interim heavyweight title. Um, we all kind of saw the Pereira move up coming for a while now. This is your payoff for all of that. Uh, versus Cyril Gahn for the strap. Is that what we're doing here? Do you think that this is going to go how people want it to go? What I mean, you tell me, Chase, what are you thinking about this?
You know, it's it's crazy to think that Alex Pereira could be the first three division champion, but he has definitely proven things that we have not thought he could do before. And not me personally, but the MMA community in general. He's been doubted a lot, especially after Izzy came back and finished him. That clip is still played on Twitter so fucking much. But Pereira has, again, opportunity to shock the world. I don't think it would be as shocking as some other things like I talked about, but it would be damn near crazy. But we have definitely seen him lose over 5 rounds to Ankalaev. So, like, if Cyril Gahn just danced around him for 5 rounds, would I necessarily say I'd be surprised? Yes, still. But, like, I guess we saw something similar to that already, so it'd be interesting.
Sure, and of course we'll be talking about the BMF fight here in a little while, and what you can expect out of fights versus what you actually get out of fights. You talked about the Ankalaev fight with Pereira. I mean, there might have been extenuating circumstances for Alex in that fight, but if Gahn decides to go and cage hug him for a long time in this fight too, that's one version of what you might end up getting, and that would be a little bit wild for the White House card.
I don't know if we're gonna get that. I think Gahn is pretty game when it comes to striking. Now that I think about it, all the fights that he's been willing to step into the cage to, I give Gahn some credit.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen either. I'm just saying that, it's like, don't be surprised if some of these fights, again, because of what we are, and not to say that, like, if they had all been the dream matchups, that something like that couldn't happen then too. But, like, again, with the card as it is, like, like, I don't necessarily believe that we're going to be seeing the red, white, and blue fireworks that you would hope for with a card of this magnitude. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, Alex being on any card is just it's such a great spectacle. He always delivers. Even with the fight with Ankalaev that he lost, he was, extenuating circumstances, but then he came back and did exactly what Alex has always been known to do. Like he truly is the mailman.
You are, yeah, you are correct about that. So, and I mean, yeah, Pereira will be the one to hopefully make this as exciting as it can be, and Gon can do his part as well. So, I really don't think that that's necessarily the fight that I would say that applies to. But like again, we talked about Hoofy and Chandler, Nickel and Dawkins. Like, just be prepared for some things to not necessarily go as well as
Yeah.
expected. So, all right. I mean, that being said, let's talk about the main event. It's Topuria versus Gaethje, a fight that I think a lot of people knew was going to happen. I mean, Justin Gaethje, the interim champion at this point. So, yeah, I mean, that was definitely going to happen one way or another, most likely. Not Islam versus Topuria. That, of course, was what I think everybody really was hoping for, whether it was here or anywhere. I don't care if it was in a parking lot at this point. That is the fight that needs to happen. What do you think about this version of things?
I mean, we had to expect that Topuria was going to be on this one. Same with Alex. I mean, they were going to figure out a way. Did Dana pay off his ex? I don't know. This is possible at this point. Like, did somebody come through and fix this situation? But because it cleared up a lot quicker than this shit normally does. Let me just say that.
I think that shout out to the Spanish legal system. I think that they actually were the ones who might have done their job for once. Amazing to think that a legal system anywhere would actually do the right thing, but that's what it seems to be, at least.
But shout out them. So Topuria being on here is great. Obviously, Justin. Apparently, he didn't know that he was going to be fighting until Thursday or Saturday. I don't know what he just came out and said, but he said yes. And of course, his opponent being Topuria is pretty fucking crazy. But we all know what's going to happen here, guys. And even if it doesn't, listen, I'm going to ride. Pause. I'm going to ride the Ilya train until this dude fucking loses. I mean, this dude's god to me right now. He's knocked out two of listen, he's great.
Yeah,
Three of the greatest.
I
Sorry.
was going to say, I mean, he's knocked out your favorite fighter 3 or 4 times in a row now. Yeah, Ilya Topuria is as advertised. He is a manifestation incarnate to me. He is a person who has spoken truth into existence multiple times. I got to believe in what I've been seeing. The eyes don't lie when it comes to Ilya Topuria. He might very well be the best fighter on the planet currently. And again, I only put that up against Islam Makhachev, which is why the two of them need to fight and why I am disappointed in this fight. Like, Justin is great. I'm very happy that he has gotten to where he has gotten at the stage of his career that he is at, with all of the chatter around him and what he's been saying about possibly retiring, etc. This is fine that this is happening. We know the fight that should be happening, and it really should be happening here on a card like this.
It really should be happening when Hydra's watching. So shout out Hydra. I
Hey,
know he just stopped by. But no,
hell yeah.
Justin Gaethje has been knocked out, guys. Like, he got knocked to the floor by Charles Oliveira before he got submitted. Ilya destroyed Charles, Justin Gaethje, we've just seen him finish before, guys. Didn't Dustin finished him the first time? So
Yeah,
it's
head kick, right? I mean,
no, no, no,
that was him.
just
I
yeah,
always
just,
I always mix that up. But yeah, no, that other way there, and then I mean, Eddie Alvarez finished Justin. Am I wrong?
yeah. There you go. And I actually think that's a pretty apt comparison. But dude, Ilya is gonna destroy this guy, and I like Justin, and he actually proved a lot. Like I even said about the last performance, if he had staff, whatever, all considering, one of the greatest performances that I think we could see if there were the extenuating circumstances that we believed. But this one right here is like, dude, you're not fucking winning. I'm sorry, brother. There's no way I could even expect you to. It should be minus 500. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, that's, really, I think that that's I mean, I agree with the sentiment. So I really don't have too much to add to it. And that's the White House card. What I say about this, because I saw a lot of people framing it in this way, 8 out of 10 for a pay-per-view, 5 out of 10 for the White House. I mean, like, this is a very, very solid international fight week card. You know what I mean? Like, this would be great for Vegas, International Fight Week, UFC X, all of that shit that they do for that. This would be like, man, that is a solid card for that level and that type of event. This might have been something that even, with obviously the Spanish or Mexican element aside, for the Sphere, this would be a good card. something like that. But when you frame it as the White House and it is the biggest event potentially of all time, it is a one of one event. It is something that is being specifically implanted into the lawn of the free world here. This is something that mom and pop American are going to be watching potentially. The average human being that has no interest in MMA can flip their television on and see this. This is supposed to be the biggest representation of our sport on a global scale to a global audience that is not fight people. I think it leaves a lot to be desired, and that is where I will certainly click this image over here. This was a fantasy version of the card, and I think that this is 10,000 times more, first of all, better card. Of course, that goes without saying, I'd say, but also a better representation of what we should have been getting out of this event.
You know, it's just absolutely insane. When you look at this picture right here, and if you even wanted to click the one that they have next, that they removed the women's one, even if you wanted to do that,
Oh,
these
yeah.
are like just to be stupid. But if you look at these, like this is almost like an all-time card, like almost like this is like almost all-time talent matching up here. That when you think of a card that like if you want to put make your all-time greatest card, like you'd have like Anderson Silva in there, you'd have like GSP or whatever. These people would also be on those lists. Like that's the craziest part, and the crazier part is this isn't even like impossible. These are all people that could have signed contracts,
That's
could have
yes.
fought, they could have been called. The only one that's the craziest thing to think is Nate Diaz. And if you even offered it to him, he would do it just because he don't give a shit. Like that's just
Yeah.
what he does. Like
Oh, I mean, yeah, you could switch a couple of these around. You could do Chandler versus Covington. You could do McGregor versus Diaz 3, which is one that I know a lot of people were talking about potentially being something they'd be interested in. Just for our audio only listeners, I'll just run this down real quick as to what this fantasy version of it is. It was Topuria versus Makhachev, McGregor versus Chandler, Jones versus Pereira, Harrison versus Nunes, and Covington versus Diaz. Like exactly as Chase just said, these are all very, very attainable matches for this card. I mean, these are things that absolutely could have happened. All people that would have picked up the phone. Like you said, Diaz potentially being the only one that might have been a little bit of a curmudgeon. Guarantee you, he would have come to the table for this.
yeah, absolutely. It sucks that we're not getting this. I if you are people that keep up with Conor McGregor and the things that he says on social media, he had some podcasts that he was ranting on, and he kind of actually made a little bit of sense. He said, I'm Conor McGregor. I'll sell out anything. They're gonna get guaranteed numbers on the White House. I'll be on the card right after it.
Yeah, I've heard that. The speculation is that they're saving Connor for International Fight Week. I really think that basically what I've said about Connor at this point, just very briefly, is that I think Connor is at the stage and the position that he has gotten himself into with all of his outside of the cage activities that the UFC is potentially getting themselves out of the McGregor business at this point. I think they have come to understand that McGregor, even as a big name in this sport and someone who is easily recognizable, is not going to continue to be bankable going forward into the future, and all of the pullouts that he has had make that also apparent to the organization. What I think is going to probably happen is that he is going to be sacrificed to a younger, hungrier fighter and, make a name off of McGregor's back that way. And then that'll be the end of it. So if it does end up happening on International Fight Week, that's fine, but it should have been the White House card. I mean, there is no more when you think when the average person, not us, but when the average human being, your grandmother's best friend who she plays mahjong with, when you say cage fighter, McGregor is who she thinks of. He should be on the White House card. That's, again, why I said John Jones at the start of this thing. I don't want John Jones to be on the White House card personally, but I understand why he should be on the White House card.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was actually thinking the entire time you're talking about Conor McGregor's going to get some prospect to, they're going to build off of him. If Conor McGregor's able to make middleweight, Bo Nickel has an opponent waiting around the corner because they obviously want to build this guy up like no other. Like,
Sure.
Jesus Christ.
Whoever it would have been, it doesn't matter. Connor is the name, and whoever else gets the shine. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who that other person is in that equation. He is the name. I mean, that's how you milk that last little bit of star power out of him, is by putting him on a card like this and having it be in front of the entire world. putting them on International Fight Week or any other card coming thereafter, that's great. That's certainly fine for the fans and for the contingency of people who still believe that it's 2017. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine for them too. But like, as far as utilizing this card to the potential that it was sold as, massive fumble as far as I'm concerned.
I definitely agree with you. I mean, it just sucks to think that these are all attainable in the way that they're all healthy to an extent. Kayla Harrison, not necessarily, but like healthy in not in fighting shape, but in the testing pool, at least for Conor McGregor. John Jones is retired just because he doesn't get his way. Taboria, all aside with the divorce, Pereira going up a weight class. Like it's not like a couple months ago you could post this and it's like, oh, Pereira and Jones, that's a fantasy matchup because Pereira's light heavyweight. Even a couple years ago, whatever you want to say. But like now, yeah, he's going to heavyweight. He's having an interim matchup, but it's like Jones just has no fight, and he's like the greatest of all time, and we couldn't have got him against Pereira. Like whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, well, at least we got to see a very spirited crash out from him. That was certainly fun to watch him imploding drunkenly on Twitter as he always does.
Yeah, has anybody checked up on his family? Has he done anything crazy yet?
Yikes. Yeah, somebody might have to go out there, check things out. But either way, I mean, I guess that's really about it when it comes to the White House card. Any last thoughts before we move on from this for now, as far as the announcement, everything goes? I know that Dana was on the broadcast, on the numbered event broadcast, talking about it. I wasn't listening to what he was saying on there, so I don't know if there was anything important that I missed in that. But I don't know.
Kind of
Is it?
didn't give a shit, bro. He just, hey, this is the fight, This
Yeah.
these are what we got, guys.
So yeah, I mean, then good. Yeah, well, then good, because that's kind of what it feels like.
No, I agree too. That's why I'm kind of not really interested to think about it too much, is because like it's just another old fucking card. I'm gonna forget when this is and where it's taking place up until they show Freedom 250 on the fucking promo right in front of me as the thing starts. So
Yeah. So I mean, look, I guess the last thing that I'll say about it is the spectacle element of this will still be that you're going to get your fireworks, you're going to get your rah rah America first, all of this stuff that you expect out of a card of this nature will be there. So I'm sure that from a visual standpoint, all the light show is going to be cool. The audio going off is going to be cool. Like there's going to be a lot of value in the presentation of it in general. As far as the fights go, we kind of just said what we thought.
okay, so we have Michael Chandler, we have Bo Nickel, Kyle Dawkins, Sean O'Malley, and Justin Gaethje. What are your 4 American themed songs that they're gonna come out to? I'm a real American. The Hulk Hogan. That one's got to be one of them. I'm gonna say Michael Chandler has that one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that they might actually do like custom music for this whole card, but going along with the thought process, my pick number one, first and foremost, has to be America. Fuck yeah, from Team America World Police. Like that should be somebody.
Sean O'Malley could potentially pull that one off.
True. I mean, well, he did. O'Malley was the one that did the "I'm Proud to Be an American" song. And the
What
"I'm
about Born
Proud."
in the USA?
That's a good one. Yeah, a little Bruce Springsteen action for sure.
That one could be Dawkins. I think I could see Dawkins coming out to that one.
Sure. A fourth America First themed
What? Yeah, Bo Nickel.
song.
What would Bo Nickel coming out to right here?
Got to be something like
Star
country.
Spangled Banner.
Nah, maybe, but like it's got to be like a country song, right? There's got to be some country America song that's like the big one. Ain't that America? Maybe that's not really a country song, but
Yeah, well,
I don't
something
know.
like that. I can see
Yeah,
it.
there's got to be some country music on this thing somewhere there.
Oh, Kurt Angle, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's not America themed though.
Yes, it is. Come on. Anybody out there, chat, roast him right now. They're gonna try to tell me Kurt Angle's song is not America themed. You're
It's an
gonna
instrumental.
it's like the most known America. It's like that is known for America, and I'm telling you, chat's about to get on you. But either way,
Oh my god.
Justin Gaethje, I don't know what he would come out to, but he's gonna come out in his skull cap, and it's gonna be over his eyes, just like Tommy from the fucking Warrior movie, and it's gonna be a really good one. I'm excited.
Oh, I mean, honestly, this is a sleeper banger, though. Hydra coming in with a little John Denver
Country
action,
Roads.
saying, "Yeah, country roads." Like it's a beautiful song, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is a good one.
All right. Well, look, I mean, we've talked it through, guys. You kind of got our impressions of this thing. Obviously, this is a very big event, so this will not be the last that you will hear about this for right now. But of course, this was the big announcement on the 326 card, so we had to get our initial thoughts about it out into the open. Continue to let us know what you think in the chat, and we will circle back around to it when it's appropriate. To circle back around to it, eh?
Absolutely, I'm excited.
All right. Well, then that takes us back to the subject matter at hand for the evening. UFC 326 was Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira 2. This took place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Chase, starting this thing off, what were your initial impressions of this card as a whole?
Before I came into it, I was not expecting too much. I mean, obviously, this is a pay per view that has a title fight that's not necessarily a real title headlining it. And the main card is good. I really like the main card on paper. Prelims did not make their way into my heart off rip. I had to watch them a little bit. And to be fair, I kind of like this card. I've been really positive this year, guys. I think 2026 has been a year for me to come around that like I'm just enjoying myself, I can't really say too much more.
I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you take that mindset because this card, I mean, off rip, this card was very hard for me to make predictions on. I did absolutely atrociously on my predictions when it came to this card. So, I didn't have a great mental impression of like what was going to happen. That being said, after watching it through, I thought that this was one of the most cursed cards that we have had in the Paramount era. So we'll talk through the details of it. But yeah, I was severely underwhelmed by this card in a number of ways, save for a couple of choice moments. So we'll get into the fights though.
No, I definitely agree with you. This was this had a lot of stuff going on, and I'm excited to talk about it. Like again, that's how I know it's a good card. Is like when there's a lot going on, and I can come into Monday and and just have an endless script to roll off of, kind of deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot to go through. One last thing though that I do want to give a shout out to because I think that this was one that we've severely overlooked. Shout out to the homie John Dong saying that Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus would be a great walkout song for somebody on the White House card. Yo, John, very, very banger right there.
I hate to say it, but ever since that stream, I think we talked about like what are the American theme songs? Like what are the songs for America? That one has actually slipped every conversation. John
True.
Dong, that is a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Most definitely. So, with that being said, let's start this thing off at the beginning, which is a good place to start.
American Woman is a fun song. Too bad we don't have Kayla Harrison, but
Sure,
whatever.
yeah, really. There you go. Yeah, if it had been Kayla, that would have been perfect for it. Sure. But all right, let's talk about this card here. This starting things off is Luke Fernandez versus Rodolfo Bellato. Who would have thought that Rodolfo Bellato would be one of the highlights of this card?
Honestly, guys, I thought it was possible. I really thought it was possible that I Rodolfo Bellato is a very tough fighter. He's not necessarily the toughest. He's not the most skilled, but he is like entry level tough. And I think that is perfect for this. You have a guy who won his matchup on Contender Series, 13 seconds, I think, 16 seconds. He's never been tested at this level. He doesn't know what toughness is yet because this whole first round, he looked really fucking good. He actually had some really good striking. He was making Bellato look like fucking dog water. And then just one crazy uppercut that the camera barely even caught. Like you can't even you can't even. I watched it like 4 times. The shot that knocks him down, I mean, it virtually just comes from nowhere. It was they were in the clinch, and Luke Fernandez was dirty boxing him up like early on and doing really good work. And then it was just at one point, Rodolfo Bellato just finally just landed one shot. It's crazy because he was so sluggish and slow. Like I thought I was like, here we are. This is why you can't bet on him, because I was really, adamant that like I think this is gonna happen, but let me not put my money where my mouth is. Because if I lose on Bellato, I'm gonna feel like a fucking idiot. But I didn't bet on him, and when he knocked him down, I said, "There it is. There's my reason to hate myself." But it was good moment. I loved it because the ground and pound was very pitiful, very pitiful. He obviously got the finish, but it wasn't anything devastating. It was enough to make the ref understand that he's not defending himself and like he's got to stop it. But Bellato, just a very tough punching bag for the moments that he had here, and shout out to him. I was very confident he'd get the finish. I thought it was maybe gonna be a submission, if anything. I thought he'd knock him down and get an RNC or something, but ground
Sure.
and pound, we'll take it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, just really to echo the sentiments, Fernandez looked pretty good until the KO. I mean, that's really what I noticed out of this. I thought that Fernandez has good, he's one of those dudes that has like the building blocks of someone who has potential, but I mean, you get caught with the short inside left at close range. That's basically how it goes. It was right on the button. It was perfectly placed. Another one of those shots that we've talked about several times where it's like it's not even necessarily about the power. It's all of the elements that go into a knockout converging, and that's basically what he did. It was the positioning, it was the power that he did put on it, and it was the motion placement, basically, like the speed of the attack, so to speak. Positioning happened pretty handily based on where they were at. The power was there enough, and the placement on the button was there as well. So really, it's all of the things that you needed for this type of a knockout to happen. Good. I mean, I also was in the same camp with you on this one, saying that Vallejos should be able to take care of a dude who's fresh off of Contender Series, and it went according to plan. This was the one fight that early on I was like, okay, things might end up going my way a little bit. Little did I know they would certainly not from here on out. But yeah, so for what this was, I mean, I thought it was fine. Rodolfo Bellato will never be my favorite fighter. I mean, I don't think I will ever get over the Paul Craig performance or really any of his other poor
You
fights that
shouldn't.
I've seen. Okay. Well, I mean, maybe I should, but I don't think I mean, like,
No, you shouldn't.
oh,
You
should
should
not.
you
Okay.
should not forget that. Yes, you should
Gotcha.
always remember that Bellato did that dumb shit, and this is why. He should be getting fed to the wolves against, guys fresh off the Contender Series who were hot and ready to knock people out, so
Yes. No. Okay. Good. I agree with that. Yeah. Those are the kind of things that like stick in your mind and definitely should, I believe. But so as I said, I mean, you're never going to be the favorite fighter, I think, of anybody. But at the same time, can he still win a fight? Yes. It made sense. This fight made sense.
absolutely.
All right. Well, moving on to the next one here. This is a fight that made a lot less sense to me. Good prediction on your part, but really, I think that this was a selling of this fight in a major way. This is Dair Nurgashai versus Rafael Tobias. Tobias, yeah, I mean, another newer guy to the organization. This is his debut here off the Contender Series as well. This was pretty much, again, I know commentary gets a lot of flack from the fans. This was one that I think that they were calling pretty correctly as far as the mistakes that Tobias was making, because I think that there were noticeable times where he definitely sold this fight, and then there were other times that were like just low fight IQ moments. I do not know how many times this dude Tobias can take a front kick to the stomach and just not do anything about it. I mean, like, he had to have gotten kicked in the stomach a good 40 times in this fight. I mean, like, I don't know what the actual number was, but it felt that way.
Absolutely. Shout out Lachlan real quick before we get into it. But
Oh, hell
yes,
yeah.
this one right here was really fun to be right about, because when the tail of the tape played and I found out Tobias was 22, I was locked in. I said, Nurgashai, he's been here. He's been around the block. He can stay at range and he can kickbox. I know he's not done it in the UFC, but he's got 11 wins doing something. So Tobias, yes, got kicked so many times in the stomach. I thought he was definitely going to get TKO'd, but he showed a lot of heart. He showed a lot of, determination, of course. Like, he was there to, he was going to take his loss. And, that's a different type of skill. A lot of people, they'll just give up and get finished kind of deal. Tobias took his butt whooping, got to the bell, even took a round on two judges. So you just got to learn what you did good in those moments. Again, watch some tape, get back in the gym, get the cardio up, and throw more punches. Get better. I mean, geez, Nurgashai actually looked really fucking solid in this fight. Up until, he's just unfortunately one of these people that like has that goofball factor. He doesn't necessarily use it in his skill set, but he always looks like he's doing something wrong. I don't know. He's just kind of interesting.
Well, you mentioned the scorecards here. 30-27. Name that judge, because that is an absolutely atrocious call. That the second round was absolutely to Tobias, and that's another point where he sold this fight really hard. Second round was where he had the potential to make this his fight. He just didn't have the wherewithal to actually do that. Tobias had Nurgashai flattened out in the second round. He's hammering away. Then instead of just staying with what was working, he repositions Nurgashai into open mat and starts attempting a sub. Bro, you had him with the side of the head shots. Keep doing what you are doing. He tried, like, people were saying, oh, he just he didn't get himself into the head and arm quick enough. if you go back and watch it, I am firmly of the belief that he didn't even set it up like he was really trying to attempt it. It was the right positioning for it, so it looked like he would have been, but I don't think that that was really the intention. I think he was just laying on top of him to maybe get to that position, but there was not the urgency to actually make that happen, and he didn't have to do it. Like, it was this was a perfect time when he had him completely flattened. He had full mount at one point with this, so it was just like fight IQ was definitely an issue here. Nurgashai getting away with the fence grab as well was, an early element of some,
Multiple.
yeah, exactly, multiple on this card. We'll talk about some of the other ones too. First of many, many shitty refereeing moments, as we always talk about. But really, like, there was definitely that element where I was just like, this guy Tobias, man, like this was fight IQ was certainly lacking when it came to this. Another thing I also want to mention here, because we've talked about it many times, but it bears repeating. This is another instance where, to me, I would not let this color your judgment on Nurgashai to think that he is a better fighter than he is, because this person not only having a very clunky style, this was two big clunky guys just sort of clunking at
Mhm.
each other for a lot of this thing, but the other element of it is Nurgashai has a tick where he literally blinds himself mid-fight. This dude Tobias did not pick up on that, and he did not time anything to it. There is going to be a fighter. I guarantee you there are going to be multiple fighters as this dude Nurgashai moves up in the light heavyweight division that are going to pick up on that when he takes his hand and goes across his face to wipe away his eyes, blinding himself in both eyes by doing it. People are going to recognize that and time shots to it. He did it in this fight. Tobias didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Nurgashai has been submitted 2 times in the UFC already, so it's not necessarily worrying about the tick too much. Just, don't get taken down and submitted. He honestly did a decent job of not getting taken down, uh, all, aside from the cage grabs. I mean, he was it's funny, there was a moment on this card. It wasn't this fight because we got down later in the card when they just got so used to it. Like, the fighters were like reaching out to grab the cage. Like, they were like so far away, and the ref didn't even care. They're like just trying to claw for the cage, like from however long, however far they are. And nobody seemed to care. So Nurgashai was definitely at fault for doing that. He would run his hands across the cage to try to get a grip, and then he'd change the position. And it is what it is. The ref sucks, and that's just normally how it goes. But Tobias was not going to win this fight. Second round, if you want to give it to him, that's fine. 30-27. I mean, I don't really give a shit too much about one round, but Nurgashai definitely won this fight, and I thought it was just the performance that was needed for a decent upset on a favorite that shouldn't have been. I mean, 22 years old on a debut, under the bright lights. That's a disaster. A recipe for disaster, I would say.
Sure. Yeah. Also, a recipe for disaster is trying to go for a Sulev stretch with 10 seconds left on the clock. That was never going to happen, but I do like the attempt. If it had come maybe 40 seconds earlier, there might have been something
Yeah.
there. But either way, yeah, the only other last little thing that I had to say about this was that it was rather painful to watch Nurgashai uppercutting Tobias in the dick. That was certainly an interesting foul. It's very rare, and it's not not unheard of, I should say, but it is certainly rare to see the actual fist to cup connection.
That is also a very funny point because this is the fight where Herb didn't stop it right away. He touched him and Nurgashai kept punching him, and then he kept trying to pull him off, and like it
Uh,
kind of wasn't. It was ran as like a translation issue, but like, bro, the ref is like touching you, like pulling
Again,
you away
well,
from your fighter, and you're continuing to try to punch him while he's walking away.
one of many, though. I mean, because
Yeah.
we're going to talk about the Zhao Long fight here in a little bit. So I mean, yeah, it's like that may have started the trend, but this was another card where if you go back to the watch along, I was shouting you out, Chase, because I was saying, this is the type of shit that makes Chase Parton correct when he says, if you get fouled, you just have to deal with it, because if they're not going to change anything and they're not going to call these fouls, then what leg do you have to stand on? This is the sport now. Fouls just happen. This Herb Dean was the one who said that he was going to be enforcing fouls more and has not. So it's like, I mean, as much as I want a fair and equal playing field for these fighters, your point really does resonate when it comes to cards like these.
Yeah, it sucks, but it's the name of the game now. I mean, if you're not cheating, you're not doing everything in your ability to win the fight. It's just how it is.
Yeah, yeah, unfortunately so. So, yeah, I mean, I said Nurgashai took the first and the third. Tobias needs to learn very quickly if he's going to stay in the UFC, is basically what I sum up with that.
He's a light heavyweight, so it's reasonable for him to be slow, and Nurgashai definitely is a little faster on the feet than most, but Tobias, he's gonna need to get a little quicker because it's very sluggish.
Yeah, no, I agree absolutely. And very very last thing, just to reiterate, do not let this color your opinion to think that Dair Nurgashai is next up.
Correct. We will lock in. He's decently active. He'll be back in about 3 4 months.
That's true. Yeah, I'll at least give him credit for that. All right. Well, moving on to the next one here. This is Sumadarji versus Jesus Aguilar. What I lead into this fight with is that I honestly felt bad for Jesus Aguilar in this fight a little bit because it seemed like he had a game plan that made sense, but it was just roundly negated by Sumadarji. I mean, like Sumadarji looked really good in this fight. Granted, Aguilar is so much smaller than Sumadarji, so the height discrepancy was obviously going to be working against him and was very noticeable throughout a lot of this. But like Aguilar was trying for the level changes, Sumadarji handled those. He would try to strike. Sumadarji found his own range very early. There just was not a lot for Aguilar in this fight, unfortunately.
Crazy part is that I've seen Sumerdarji a couple times now, and I always seem to just forget this dude is ginormous. He's just fucking huge. Like I've never seen a guy from China built like this in the UFC yet. You know, and
Mhm.
he's a killer. You know, he is really good on the feet. Obviously, he's not knocking heads off, but he's got a decent striking game, and that's fine. I I would like to disagree with you because I'm a big fan of Jesus Aguilar. I'm not going to let him off easy. I think the game plan was just completely bad on the striking front. I mean, he just kept trying to throw these big wild hooks from way too far away. He wasn't getting on the inside. He wasn't setting anything up. I'm not going to say I know what he could have done to do something different. It's a tall task, literally. But brother, I think there had to have been something different because you should have seen that wasn't working in the first. And just because your takedowns weren't working initially, yeah, I mean you're a grappler at heart. You know, you got to start. You got to figure it out. You got to get it to the mat. You can't just settle for throwing these big old bombs. You know, like you're not even getting close to him. He's very good at range. He's very tall. You're gonna have to get some punches up there, but you just weren't getting anything because you weren't doing what was going to be effective. And I don't know what could have been effective. I wasn't in the fight. I know you are hella short compared to this dude, and he is very good with his hands. So maybe it just wasn't your day. But you've beaten a lot of people and you've lost to a lot of very good people. Sumer Darji has 7 losses. There have been people who have beaten him before. Most of them, I would assume, are shorter than him. So what's the deal? You know, like how couldn't you have done something different? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear what you're saying on that. I guess I want to give Sumadarji more credit as to being the aggressor for a lot of this because I really think that when Aguilar got like when the things he was trying were being negated, they even said it on commentary too, where they were saying like in the third round you could really tell that Aguilar was starting to get frustrated. That was tracking to me. I mean, like when you have everything that you're doing being negated just time and time again, really the big one to me was in the second round. There was a time in the second round where Aguilar did get Sumadarji down and he got reversed on the ground. I was like, that's really the end point for me on this one because it's like when you have that one moment where you finally get your way a little bit and then there's an answer for that too, then it's like, yeah, really, there, where do you go from there? So I can understand the frustration being mounting over the course of this thing, and that comes from Sumadarji. I think it was CTE who said it on the watch along. Shout out to him. He was saying that Sumadarji is right at the level of being a middle of the pack, like just in that top 10 conversation flyweight, and that is where he's going to stay. And that being said, I think that against an opponent like Jesus Aguilar, that is what you get out of a fight like this. You know what I mean? You got a very solid, fundamentally sound fighter in Sumadarji. The one criticism that I had, or the most glaring one, is that you didn't see much of a determination or an urgency to finish this fight. You know, so it's
Yes.
like that would have been something that I think could have set him apart with this. Even DC was saying, you know, he could have been. They turned up in the last 10 seconds, and DC was like, oh, he could have been doing that all fight. I agree. I think that could set him apart, but he's not that guy. He's a middle of the pack, solid fighter. Fundamental game plan works for him. this fight turned out the way that it did because of all of those factors.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like his striking isn't for it's he's not a killer. You know, he's very not passive, but he's very light when it comes. He's going to go 3 rounds with the striking. You know, it would be different. You know, with a person with this record, you know, we could have a lot of hopes and think the ceiling is a little higher than we once believed. If he was 19-7, he's stuffing takedowns now, and then he's finishing people at this division. But he's stuffing takedowns against Jesus Aguilar, yes, and he's striking him up for 3 rounds. But somebody's going to get you down, and somebody's going to hold you down, and you know it's just going to be a different game. You know, it's going to have to be a tailor-made, path to victory for Sumer Darji. I would like to believe that he could do a little more than Jesus Aguilar, but I'm still just not seeing championship material here. And I would like to shout out Hydra because he's checking me and I really appreciate him. It says China on ESPN. I don't know what Tibet is, but he is the Tibetan Eagle. So shout out them. I appreciate him.
Chase's socio-political knowledge lacking in that department. But yes, shout out to Tibet, free Tibet. So, and, you know, I mean, Sumadarji representing for Tibet as a Chinese citizen, that's kind of ballsy, I guess you could say. But good for him on that. So, yeah, I mean, regardless of that element of things, solid performance for Sumadarji. Like I said, I think that had he been of the type of caliber of fighter to finish the a fight or to have the urgency and the wherewithal to do so, this could have been a really like highlight performance for him. This was certainly a very solid, well executed performance. But you know, it's championship material. Nah, I mean, like he's middle of the pack, as exactly where he should be. And again, I think it was CTU who was saying it's like American top team or not American out team alpha male. You know, he's a Uri Faber guy, so it's like team alpha male. That's what they graduate. That's the level that you get out of a team alpha male fighter. And I'm like, well, there's your prototype right there, Sumadarji.
Yeah, he is pretty cool though. I mean, I do kind of I like him a lot more than I feel like I should have been liking him before. I up until this point I was 2-0 on picks, but I let my heart get in my way. Jesus Aguilar, I understand it's just not that good, guys. Hate to break it to myself.
True. Well, and this was one where at least I could lean on you for selling me on Aguilar when we did our predictions. Little did I know that I would not be able to do that for the rest of this card. So I will blame you for this one, Chase. You led me astray. I led myself astray many, many times thereafter.
Yeah, hell yeah, I appreciate that.
All right. Well, let's keep it moving then. Next up on the list is Naem Jargal Tumendembrel versus Cody Durden. Pronunciation on point. Thank you, me. But yes, the Cody Durden versus Naem Jargal Tumendembrel. What'd you think of this one?
This one was really good for me because Cody Durden he's a formidable opponent, especially at the flyweight division. He's very tough. He shows a lot of different skills. I was very pleased to say that throughout the entirety that Niam Jargal has been in the UFC, he has been treated, and at least by me specifically, and I'm going to be completely honest, he has been this make-a-wish fighter, kind of deal. Like, he's kind of got just aura to him that you represent for no reason. He hasn't proven it to you yet, but you want to believe this is your guy. You treat him with a little more grace than you should have. But I would love to tell you guys, he's very fucking skilled. I actually really like him a lot. I don't know, maybe the first time he was in the UFC, not the first time, obviously he went back to the road to the UFC kind of deal, but the first time I saw him in the UFC, I feel like it was not a complete package. I was billed that he was some knockout artist with crazy power kind of deal. But now I'm seeing more of a full package to him, and he really is a good grappler. He is a very threatening submission artist, and on the feet he is kind of scary. I mean, it doesn't seem like you're going to be able to knock this dude out. At least as of right now, I would like to see it happen because he seems ready to walk down any of his opponents and grapple with the best of the wrestlers. I had people in my chat telling me Cody Durden's, he wrestles in his fucking sleep. This is what he does for breakfast. And you know what Niam Jorgel did? Made him his fucking bitch for 3 rounds. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, look, I'm buying it. The only thing I will say to contrary this is that I would really have been a lot more high on the Tumen Dembrell train after this fight had he not been such an absolute scumbag in this fight in a lot of
Oh
ways.
yeah.
I mean, bro, it's like he elbow to the back of the head and a shot after the horn. I mean, come on, dude. That's serious what the fuck moments right there.
It was 2 shots after the horn. He did it in the second round. He, like, tried to up kick him or whatever, or maybe Cody was on the ground and he threw some, shots, and then Cody pushed him off, like, "What are you fucking doing?" And then at the end of the 3rd round, bro, he threw, like, a full-on combo after the bell, and I think it's really funny because with a guy like this, you obviously can make the memes, like, they who's there to translate these rules for him? Did they send the rule book over in the Tibetan language, the Mongolian language, whatever you wanna say? I don't know, because clearly he don't know what the rules are. He don't know what bells are. He's never heard them.
Oh, bullshit. Well, that's the whole thing, and that's actually why yet again, I will give you the credit there, Chase. I thought your idea about having it for every fight, sending the rule book in their native language to them, I thought that was a fantastic idea. But regardless, give me a fucking break. It does not take a translation or, it does not take a rocket scientist to know that when you hear the horn, you stop throwing the shots. This dude is scummy, bro. So, I mean, like, it's unfortunate too, because as I said, I agree with you. I thought that this was a really solid. First of all, this was a very wrestle heavy fight where one dude was better at the wrestling than the other. And when it's Cody Durden, who is one of those people, that speaks volumes to me, because even though we have seen Cody Durden lose a number of times and he's not the greatest in the division, he is still a very fundamentally sound wrestler. Like, I mean, like, he has the technique and the skills in that department. We've seen him pull off really nice submissions in the past before, like, ones that you're like, wow, I didn't expect that. So, like, he is the exact right person to, if you can be better than him at that game, you look good doing it. But I mean, like, Tumen Dembrell, those little elements of it kind of piss me off, when it's like, other than that, it would have been like, man, this dude really is that guy.
I think you gotta give him hear me out. I know it's asking a lot, but if you just hear me out, you gotta give him a little bit of a break. Because when it comes to somebody like Niem Jargel, I wanna give him the benefit of the doubt, because he has a level of primitive to him.
Oh my God.
No, listen, hear me out. When he hears the bell, it's like an elephant, right? You know how they do, like, the yeah, that's what he hears, and he's ready to go skin an elephant. Like, it's just in his nature. He gets crazy when he hears loud sounds. He just, like, gets all amped up. Like, you gotta stop him, dude, or he's going to kill Cody Durden in the cage. Like, I truly believe this. Listen, guys, Ian Jargell is a really cool dude. Don't let his fighting persona sway you. He is just a killer inside the cage. You gotta stop him.
Chase really believes that when he puts that big hat on that he was wearing after the fight, that he transports back to the 1400s.
I said this, dude. He fights as if he's fighting for Genghis. Like, dude, he's on the front lines for him. I swear.
Oh my God. All right. Well, I mean, yeah, chat, draw your own conclusions, I suppose. Yeah, no, look, I mean, as far as the actual nuts and bolts of the performance, I mean, I think that there were like, he was doing so well, Naim Jergal, that like there were times where Cody really needed to save himself and was not doing it. That I think also is a big point about all of this. Like, Tumen Dembrell was definitely leading the dance in all of these exchanges. This was another one of those very long one round of kind of the same thing happening. But when Cody Durden is on his back, hands up to the sky, looking at the referee for savior, like, bro, you have to be the one to make that happen. I said in the notes, Cody looking to the ref to save him from valid active wrestling. Bro, you're supposed to be Mr. Wrestler over here. So come on, dude.
That's how you should know that he's washed, like, little things add up, and if you're doing that type of shit, when you look at Giga Chikadze, Kevin Vallejos whiffed a shot, he put his hands up and then immediately gets clobbered with a spinning back fist. It's like the little things catch, they add up when you get a little older. Now, it didn't, actively, like, get Cody Durden, like, caught up in a submission or anything, but, like, you looking at the ref knowing damn well this is fine, kind of deal.
Right.
It's just a bad look for you. And Niem Jargel, again, this dude is a lot better than I feel like I was giving him credit for, and I think that a lot of people were giving him credit for. He genuinely does have skills that I think they're making me think that in flyweight, he's at 10-1. he could be a force. Seriously, it's still possible.
Fair enough. Hopefully he tightens up as far as, all of the actual rules and regulations of the sport goes so that I don't have to keep thinking about him as a scumbag. But yeah, looked good in this fight. Cody Durden on the other side on a 4-fight losing streak now. May not be long for this promotion, perhaps, I would think at this point.
Absolutely. The only thing that I'm thinking about, we talked about where could the UFC or any other promotions, we got the pyramids, we got the White House. Where's the Terracotta Army, guys? Mr. Niem Dragal, we could get us going right in front of his home territory. I'm locked in, man. I like it. UFC
True.
Mongolia, shout out.
I mean, either that or you have him go up a number of weight classes and he can fight Miktabek Orlabai for ownership of the cave.
Yeah, absolutely true. No, I there was a really funny thing that I said, Niem Dragal, when they weigh him, they get the scale, they put the horse on, then they weigh him, you gotta subtract the horse's weight, of course. He comes with it.
Indeed, indeed. And I just to have to put that one up there real quick. Chase on the way to Mongolian cancellation.
You
But
know, I love this dude, man. Him and Miktabek, like and Javier Reyes. These are my top three cavemen in the UFC. Salty
I,
Voliev does count too, as well.
Oh, that's my guy for sure. I'm a big fan of him. So yeah, fair enough. Look, hey, I welcome our new wave of Mongolian fighters of the region, Caucasus, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Shafkat too, obviously. Yes.
Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. So I welcome it all. I think it's great. I just don't want him to be an absolute scumbag. So please stop hitting people after the horn. That's all that I ask. I mean, again, not like it mattered. Not like it mattered.
No,
It really, that was and I'm not going to keep harping on this, guys. You hear it every fucking week. So what's the point? But you would think that after the second time, you know what I'm saying? If you do it the first time, it's okay, whatever, you're caught up in the moment. The end of the fight, a late shot. I mean, I gotta believe that I was waiting. I saw, I think it was Herzog who was like leading him by his hand, and at one point I was like, is he going to take a point after the horn? Like that might have been appropriate. No, nothing. So, just not that it matters, but it would be nice to think that these people could actually go in and just fight, like actual professional fighters.
And Sanjay, listen, I don't know what the Mongolians are up to, but if they got good barbecue, they are fine by me.
Well, Sanjay, a man who knows a thing or two about good barbecue, so I would listen to him.
Hell yeah. Oh, a Borat region thinker. Jesus Christ. Get it right.
Fair. Sorry. All right. Well, whatever. Anyway, anything else on this one?
No, this was fun. Loved it.
Good deal. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one here. This is the fight that I think kind of stuck out to me the most on this card, which I know might be slightly surprising to people, perhaps. But this is Alberto Montes versus Ricky Tercios. What I say about this is that what's the guy's name that you were talking about last week? Reyes, was it the dude from Venezuela? Is that
Colombia.
Colombia? Is Reyes his name?
Yes,
Yeah,
Javier Reyes.
Javier Reyes. Yes, exactly. The way that you were talking about him, I kind of got a little of that feeling out of Alberto Montes. I mean, granted, Alberto Montes has this like signature anaconda that he pulls off or whatever. I think you put that to the side. I think that really that's just kind of the icing on top of a very solid set of fundamentals that I saw out of Alberto Montes. I was very impressed with his navigation of this fight. Now, granted, he's fighting a cartoon character on the other side of this thing in Ricky Tercios, who we'll talk about, of course. But really, getting the finish was great. But like, I really liked just his composure. I liked his navigation. He seems like he has a very solid fundamental base that only can be built upon. And granted, he is newer to the organization. This was his debut. I think that really the ceiling might be pretty high for this guy. This is one that I think has a little bit of aura.
This one is interesting because, yeah, we don't know anything about him. We only know that he looks like Ilya. And I think the funniest thing about that is he knows that he looks like Ilya because in his in his little, post-fight scrum meeting, whatever you want to say, he says, funny thing, he actually even said that, I trained with Ilya a long time ago. That was like how he started off. I don't like that. I don't want to be known as Togtorio or Obtoro, which is kind of funny because he's kind of in on the memes, but
Sure.
very funny dude. Seems like really chill. And of course, locked in a submission win. We don't see that many submission wins anymore, guys. If you find somebody that's a submission finisher, it does start to stand out. I mean, when you look at Amosov, right? When he came in from the Ukraine and he got a submission win against a very high level grappler. I mean, it's something to take note of. Ricky Tercios is not somebody who gets finished, that often by grapplers, that I know of. Like, did Raul even sub him away? Yes, he did. Okay, so on the level of Raul, back when Raul used to be an actual finisher, we'll talk about it in a little bit.
Sure.
But Alberto Montes, I mean, is he going to be able to get the Anaconda choke after this? Probably not. I mean, eventually it's going to hit a wall. I said this about Walter Walker. You're not going to be able to go into every fight and do the same thing. I think this is where a lot of people get caught up on their betting too, is they look at a fighter that we'll talk about later specifically. They look at a fighter and they see them do something once or twice. And then they say every time, oh, they're just going to do that to this fighter. Oh, they're going to do that to this next guy. They have to game plan. They have to do something different. They can't just do the same thing because the other opponent, they know that's their primary thing, then you got to switch it up. You got to mix in the martial arts. But a lot of people get caught up betting because they're expecting the person to go for the submission every single time when they got to change it up. So I think Alberto Montes, thankfully, he has a lot of all around skills, that it's not just an anaconda choke that he has. Decently sound boxer, very technical. We'll see about the power. I mean, Latino chin, we'll see. But I think this is a pretty damn good prospect. It's unfortunate we didn't know anything about him because listen, I'm not going to say I would have picked him if I knew anything about him, but Ricky Tercios going up a weight, him getting the finish, Ricky Tercios being a very good grappler, Alberto Montes, pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tercios, perhaps a good grappler at times, but in this fight, I mean, this was a meme performance if there ever was one. Tercios out here doing the war cry, bouncing all over the place, basically doing anything and everything but fighting effectively. I mean, he really all over the place in this thing. And I said it on the watch along, but I do want to bring it up here. I don't know if this will show on camera. Oh, yeah, it does. Tercios reminds me of this guy. This is the honeycomb cereal mascot. And if
Mm.
you might be a little too young to remember this guy, Chase, but if you're of my age range, you will know that basically in those commercials, that's what that guy did. He bounced all over the place and was kind of just like this big Tasmanian devilish character sort of thing. Tercios, similar to that, the hair certainly adds up to it as well. And that's what I saw out of him in this fight. I mean, it really was just a whole bunch of bullshit, and Montes being very composed throughout all of it with his technique and his form being very nice. And, I mean, Tercios really just living up to the same things that we have said about the Ultimate Fighter alums, like just a guy who is not it, unfortunately. I mean, like, he's got what I think is like a version of himself in his mind that does not translate to effective mixed martial arts, to be perfectly honest. I mean, like, based on what we know about him and having watched his Ultimate Fighter season and what we have seen out of him in the UFC, the version of what he thinks he is versus what comes out in the fight are two different things, and there is a big divide between them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But I would like to ask your question about what do you think about Alberto Montes not just getting one anaconda choke, but he had got an additional 3 anaconda chokes after the fight against his coaches, his training partners, and whoever else. But he locked those all up pretty quick. Obviously, got himself looking really sharp out there. What do you think about that?
I thought it was a fun silly. I thought it was a fun celebration there. Of course, one of those anaconda chokes against Dana Brown of Karate Combat fame. If you didn't notice there, that's he
Is
trains
that who that was?
certainly was absolutely, yeah. He's Alberto Montes is out of the goat shed, and that is Dana Brown's gym.
Ooh, wait a second. Okay, I was very, very confused. Okay, so when I saw that guy, I don't know why I thought that's one of the guys that was in the cage that was training the guy that was training.
Oh.
I that's what I was like, oh, that's some legendary coach that like blah 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 blah. But then I knew he looked familiar, but like surely he couldn't be the Dana Brown. But you're gonna tell me Dana Brown is the goat shed guy? Eileen Perez's. Oh my goodness. So
Oh,
okay,
is she
Dana
is she go
Brown.
to goat shed too? I didn't even know.
Yes, she is
Oh
Coach
yeah,
Sid.
how
That
about that?
explains why she has been at Karate Combat so frequently. I thought she was just riding the hype of Alex Pereira, but okay, this makes a little more sense. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, you say legendary coach on the Cage television show. No, legendary coach IRL.
Yeah.
Legendary coach also potentially sending Karate Combat into very questionable financial territories, but of course we won't talk about that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so no, I liked the celebration. I thought it was good. I do acknowledge what Hydra is saying in the chat. Interesting to go from men's mental health awareness into that version of a celebration, kind of a tonal shift. I did think it was a very, obviously that's a very important issue that needs awareness and all of that. So we had him talk about it. I think we had one other person talk about that on the card as well. Good deal there. Celebration was fun. As I said, man, I maybe didn't articulate it as much as you did about Javier Reyes, but I have that feeling about Montes. I like, and I'm not even just putting it all on the Anaconda. I mean, it's cool that he has his own little signature Anaconda or whatever. That's a nice little addition to everything. But just based on pure fundamental ground level baseline when it comes to him, he's somebody that I'm watching out for.
Well, Mank said it best here. He ain't a jujitsu nerd. He knows striking.
All
So
right.
Alberto Montez, love it.
I love it too. So good deal there. And I mean, as far as Ricky Tercios goes, I got to think that his days are numbered at some point, man. Even being an Ultimate Fighter guy, like that's got to have its limitations. And he is now 13-6.
Yet normally moving to the next weight class and losing immediately, not a good look.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, absolutely. So we'll see what happens for Tercios going forward. But yeah, he's running out of options, I would say.
yes. Well,
All right.
McDonald's could call him, but
He could be working right next to Mokayev.
there you go.
All right. Well, next up on the list here is Dante Johnson versus Cody Brundage. This was, obviously Dante Johnson came into this as the biggest favorite on the card. He won this fight, but it was a very skin of his teeth performance here. It certainly looked like there was a good amount of work that needed to be done on Dante's side. And there looked like there was a little bit of underestimation going into this fight when it came to Johnson and his perception of Cody Brundage. I said going into, if you recall from our last episode, I had said, underestimating Cody Brundage is a mistake. I mean, Cody Brundage has a lot of weirdness in his past. He's got a lot of fluky nonsense and all of that, but he will go out there and fight. I think that Johnson got a little bit lucky that this was a short turnaround fight for Brundage.
I think this fight, unfortunately, was one of the weaker ones on this card, and I'm not gonna blame either one of them yet, I guess. But what I will say is Dante Johnson being 8-0 and as young and as new into or as young into his career, this is great experience for him because he again, when it comes to watching your old performances, I would hope a lot of these guys it may suck, but this is what you signed up for to be a professional. You're going to rewatch this shitty performance over and over again because you're going to have to learn to do everything better. And by everything, I mean there's a whole lot. And again, I'm not going to be the one to tell you how to do it or what to do great because again, you got the win. Split decision, crazy. I will tell you that is crazy. That it should have been unanimous. But coming into this fight, Dante Johnson had posted a picture of him training at Mayweather's gym, with Floyd Sr. or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Did not translate one bit into this fight. This was the unfortunate thing about seeing once the fight got to the feet. Dante Johnson had a lot of confidence in his striking, in his power. You had the fucking commentary crew bringing up that Dante Johnson said he could be the first triple champ, 3-division champ. And I'm sitting here saying, brother, I'm watching you strike against Cody Brundage, and it is not looking that good. Let's hold off these remarks, commentary crew, because you're making him look 10 times worse by saying shit like that. But the striking, albeit looked confident, it looked uncomfortable. It looked as if he was not out there doing something right. And he just got done training with Mayweather. So I'm sitting here thinking this dude fucked him over. Like, what the hell? So I don't know, man. This was crazy.
No, yeah, a lot has been made of the stance and the cadence of the movement and stuff. What I said is, if you recall, Chase, early on, now not in her last fight or the fight before at this point, but I believe it was either her first or second fight. I had a couple of choice words about Claudia Saigula and how she used to like hold herself. She sort of had this herky jerky, sort of like almost like a bobblehead kind of thing. I think I not in the connotation that one normally would use it, but I said that it almost had like kind of a chicken-like sort of chicken head kind of thing. And I'm not calling her chicken head. I'm just saying that that's what it looked like. I kind of saw a little bit of that out of Johnson in the way that he was carrying himself. Hands low, chin high was an understatement in a lot of this. Now, granted, the first strike that he threw on in this fight, like Brundage got right underneath it and went for the takedown. He was way too casual with that too. So my point in bringing that up is you've got a confidence in the hands paired with a stance that is noticeably awkward. That just seemed like it was like that there was a comfort level that was not there for him with that specifically. Movement seemed very, like I said, herky jerky is really the way that I describe it. It was very kind of like clunky, but in a almost robotically clunky kind of way. Like it's hard to fully put it into words, but if you'd know it if you saw it. So all of those things were just kind of going against him. And then Brundage had a game plan that was effective in a limited sense, but that's really more on Brundage's side. If he had been a more skilled tacticianer when it comes to his ground game, there could have been a very different fight here. But, Cody Brundage just unfortunately, I think he gassed early. And apparently there was a little bit of a confidence issue that they were talking about. I saw chat was saying that, he gives up on himself. It didn't necessarily look like that to me outwardly, but like when I'm hearing that from commentary and like that being what I am seeing is a tired looking fighter, I can understand that being part of the equation too. So like I say, I mean, I think that Johnson did win this fight, but I do think that there was a decent amount of luck on his side when it came to what he was being opposed by.
Listen, this is great experience for Dante Johnson. 8-0, Cody Brundage's. This is the same situation that they threw Zachary Reese into, and Zachary Reese got slammed on his head, knocked out, kind of deal. Dante Johnson came out of here, took a W. So I think that is very important. He did do his job. He got paid. Did he get a finish bonus? No, but he'll learn, and hopefully he's going to come and get better. But what I will say is, a lot of people were saying Cody Brundage pulled off an Anthony Smith-esque performance in this fight, where he was doing a lot of cowering rather than more defensive positions kind of deal. And I don't think I necessarily would go that far. I personally don't think I saw that out of Cody Brundage. Come on, we know what Anthony Smith looks like kind of deal, or had looked like, with all due respect. But Cody Brundage, I mean, didn't look great, wasn't winning the fight, but this was average. This was Cody Brundage another day at the office, guys. Like, is anybody surprised at this? You guys want to talk about, this could be Anthony Smith? No, this is Cody Brundage. Like, he's in his own fucking realm here.
I would take a little bit of issue with that because against Julian Marquez, I mean, you saw him throw down in that fight. You know what I mean? So it's like my point with that is that, like, I think that, like, when pushed to that extreme, he will do that. I really think a lot of this comes down to the quick turnaround. He had he's trying to get a bounce back. Brundage is not the guy to do a quick turnaround bounce back fight. He did not have a fight camp for this fight, which I thought was like, that stuck out to me heavily. And everybody's like, oh, well, he was on quick turnaround. I'm like, bro, if you're going to take a quick turnaround fight, you should be immediately back into camp. Like, that should, like, there should be no in between. You are the one deciding to do that. So I think that there was like, an element that I'll give. Grant, I feel like every time, like, I'm kind of like, the devil's advocate when it comes to Cody Brundage over here, which I'm like, I'm not really trying to be, but I feel like I've seen better out of Brundage than people that will give him credit for because of all the weirdness and everything. We did not see it here. I will certainly admit that.
Yeah, no, this one was definitely an interesting performance. Not necessarily anything that I'm gonna rant and rave about for the rest of my life. I'll probably forget it by next week, and we'll talk about another fight in the Apex that was better than this. But Dante Johnson proving to be a prospect that you got to keep your eye on, because it doesn't necessarily seem like he's the full package yet. But again, he's still very youthful into his career, but he does seem to kind of have a little bit of a community behind him. It's not necessarily the biggest, but like you can feel that obviously, as big of a favorite he is, there's a lot of pressure on him. And if it's as somebody that everybody describes as a little hard on himself kind of deal, we'll have to see where this goes. It could be one of those moments where you get something that's really good or you get something that's really bad. I think there's a little X factor kind of thing in here. I think potentially we could have the greatest thing ever, or potentially we could have the worst thing ever. So keep an eye on Dante Johnson. That's the one thing that I'll be able to say is that you should not be able to let him slip off the radar.
I agree entirely on that. I think that there is definitely potential for Johnson to do everything that we're talking about, learn from this, come back better. You know, what we saw in the Strikes Dumas fight, we did not see here. I believe that he can replicate the Dumas fight, at least the elements that made him look great in that fight. I believe that there is more of that in him going forward. And I'm very glad that he did win this fight so that we will be able to see that.
Absolutely.
Also, before we move on, I have to highlight this comment here because this is something that never has even occurred to me, but is a goated idea.
Mhm.
Sanjay saying, is anybody else rewatching the fights as we talk about them? Brother, what an amazing idea. Yeah, if you guys are out there and have the fights queued up while we are talking these things through, excellent, excellent idea.
I'm glad you brought it up because I did see that as well. I wasn't going to stop the show just to bring it up, but I'm glad you did. That is an excellent idea. I see Hydra over here. You know, you're liking the idea as well. Everybody, shout out Sanjay really quick. Yeah,
Yeah,
if
most
we look like
definitely.
Megan Levy, we would watch their screen instead. Yeah, I hear you. I would
Yes.
too.
Yeah, exactly. Same. I would certainly not be watching me if Mego Levy was on any screen. That is a good call.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, that being said, let's move on to the next fight. If you're rewatching fights, this is certainly one to see. This is Cody Garbrandt versus Zhao Long. Before we get into this fight, Chase, I'm going to ask this question in all earnesty, in all earnestness. Is Zhao Long mentally handicapped in some way? And I'm not. That sounds. I know you're laughing, and I'm not. I'm legitimately and earnestly asking if there might be some element of a slight bit of autism, an element of maybe something off. All I saw out of this guy was flecks of things that would lead me to believe that.
I this goes back to having the rule book in all the languages because listen,
To not know to knee of dude in the nuts 3 times.
it wasn't even just that, bro. Like there was just so listen. Herb Dean had to bring in the interpreter. He's like, interpreter, come on, like get over here, tell him. Like they clearly didn't. There was language barrier is obviously always a way out. Like you could always que pasa? You know, like you can always just act like you don't fucking know. And Zhao Long in this fight, you know, now that you bring it up, I wasn't reading it as that. I think he just don't give a fuck, bro. He just don't give a fuck about this shit. You know, but he truly does. Like he might have a little John Silva. Like if listen, I the only reason I say that, and I know we go back to earlier discussions, I was claiming that I'm not necessarily sold on John Silva being in that, you know, the Venn diagram or whatever. But Jean Silva and Zhao Long might be in the same Venn diagram kind of deal.
Yes, I understand the thought process entirely on this. Really, it's not necessarily even about the nut shots to me. What really stood out more so when it comes to what I was talking about is earlier in the fight, Zhao Long was selling every hit like it was a death blow that he was having to scare off. And again, that description. If you saw what I'm talking about, really tracks well because every time that he would get like and shout out to Cody Garbrandt because first round he looked really good in this fight. I thought, okay, all right, fine, we can talk it through. But I'm just saying, I thought that he landed a couple of. I mean, there was moments of inactivity throughout all of this, even in the first round. But he definitely took the first round. And there was one time specifically he hit a beautiful up and over elbow that landed real flush. It was in a close range situation, and Zhao Long jumped back and you know how you're supposed to scare off a bear, like they say to like make yourself big? That's what he did. He jumped back and put his arms up like this and was like, "Oh!" And I was like, "Are you scaring off the elbow? Is that what you're doing right now?" Because it really did. Any time that it was a impactful shot, he was selling it so hard, and it looked to the point that he was trying to like will the demons out of the striking.
Yeah, I think this fight. Listen, Xiao Long is the emote king. We will definitely talk about that here in a minute. But what the story is that Xiao Long had all the answers for Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt dipped to his right and got kicked in the fucking head in the first like 30 fucking seconds.
Once though.
No, he got kneed the second time. He dipped even lower and got kneed. You know, so it was pretty funny. That was in the second round, but Zhao Long was having all the success. Cody Garbrandt, you said he looked fine. I remember because I picked him. This was my pick, and this is one of the ones that evidently went my way, but I would not necessarily say that I won this one. Cody Garbrandt, I gave him credit because he's fast, is what I said. He is still lightning. He's not anymore. He's not anymore. He is not as fast as he once was. The quickness is early. Like you look at Michael Johnson, it's still there.
Sure.
This right here, it was not the same, and he was not able to slip in. He was not able to slip out. You know how I know he wasn't? Because he was slipping into feet that were flying into his face.
Well,
Like
that's where I will certainly agree. What I would say is he is still fast. He's still light on his feet as far as speed goes, but his striking is just not there. I mean,
yeah,
like that's why I was saying first round he was landing a couple of elbows, he got a couple of knees. I thought this was a good version. What I really in the moment, what I thought I was like, this is a good start to this fight for him. Like it might not, like it was close enough round that it was still very competitive. I was like, he is working his way towards better going forward in this fight. Round two, the output dipped very significantly. I mean, like it was like really, really inactive. Zhao took that one off of the kicks alone. Like you were saying, I mean, like, the kicks were very consistent for Zhao. I was like, there you go. I mean, you're taking it because Cody is doing exactly as you said. He's actively moving, but not pairing it with any striking. So really, you're dancing. I mean, that's a choreographed dance routine at that point. Also in the second.
Hydra, right as you said, choreographed dance routine. He said Cody Garbrandt's speed is performative now. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
bingo. Yeah, very well said. Exactly. Absolutely. Also in that second round was when the fuckery started. Third round was where it got turned up to 11, but the fuckery started in the second round with the head clash at the very end, which was admittedly a gnarly one. Cody got very lucky that Zhao didn't go out off of that one.
He kind of went limp for a second. That was a pretty
Yeah.
scary head clash for sure.
Yeah, it was right on the money too. I mean, like as far as where the impact would have been to knock someone out, yeah, it was a bad one. So I understood Zhao Long getting upset about that one and his whole little thing where he went over and was like pointing at his head and like headbutting the air or whatever. Like it's like okay, I understandable. And honestly, if you heard Cody after the fight, he was like, "Yeah, I understood it. I stepped back. I was respectful of you. You didn't give me that same respect thereafter." And that's when Cody started to get really pissed in the third. And we'll talk about all that in a second here. But
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm glad you brought up the post fight thing where he's like, dude, I could have fucking wailed you, dude, while you were down, but I didn't. Cody's a funny dude, but like this is again, you can't play by those rules if you want to be the best. I mean, it's funny because Cody won this fight 28-27, which if you do the math here, Xiaolong won the first two rounds. Okay, fine. He also won the third round, guys. I don't know if anybody forgot this. I mean, they kind of gave Cody Garbrandt the third round. He did not win any of these rounds. They took away 2 points. That should mean Zhao Long should have still won by one round, but that's just not what happened here.
Yeah, well, that is the most wildest thing, and I do acknowledge that. I personally had Cody winning the first round. I even after rewatch, I definitely did. I mean, like I thought that there was enough. I thought he landed some really nice, good stuff in that first round. I saw enough. But fine, fair enough. You are correct, though. That is very wild to think about. But we got to talk through the third round real quick here
Yes.
because this is where it really got crazy. So I said I had a 1-1 going into the third. So anybody's fight based on my scorecards. Zhao Long lands the kick to the nuts. First off, he gets that's a get back. I said, that's the get back for the headbutt. Fine, we're gonna move on. Warning for that. Immediately after that, Zhao Long lands a way more solid connection to the cup. I mean, like the first one, that's a connection. It hurts. Cody shakes it out. Second one, you heard that bitch. Like that was a fucking solid. That was the one that had Cody throwing up. I mean, this was a unique situation. Joe Rogan had said it, and I really was struggling to think of a time that I have seen in my time with the sport where you've actually seen someone throwing up from one of these, which it can happen, but very
Key
rare.
key thing about Paramount and the UFC broadcast, they will show you an open gash on somebody's forehead, but they will not show you a person throwing up into a bucket.
Yes, you are very correct about that. That was a funny thing of all this. So yeah, we're sitting there, we're watching Zhao Long as he's sort of like standing, kind of looking around.
He's
He's
got
waiting for
this
the
look on his face like, "Ew," and he's like vomiting, like, but
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like
well,
still trying to lock in. He's like not trying to look at it. It's pretty funny, honestly.
yeah, you did that, brother. That was because of you. You made that happen. So yeah, I mean, shout out to Cody Garbrandt for being able to stay in this thing, because I do really, based on what we saw. I mean, look, we've talked about certain nut shots where it's like, is he milking it? Is he not? I don't think that you can fake vomiting off of a nut shot. You know what I mean? Like, as a man, I don't think that it is possible to go from dry heaving into actual vomit unless there's legitimate pain there. So he could have taken the easy way out. He certainly did not do that. And then yeah, I mean, he's doing all that. The bucket is out. Whatever. We finally get back into it. Zhao Long gets that point deduction off of that. Cody is staring daggers at him after this. And then the funniest thing to me throughout all this, before the next round of fuckery here, is that when the fight resumes, Cody charges at this man like a buffalo, no connection, and then they just clinch.
Yep. No, that was absolutely funny because yes, as the fight's about to restart, Cody's staring across, he's pacing, he's ready to go, and he tells Zhao, "Meet in the middle, man. It's time to fucking go." And Zhao Long, this is his time. If you tell him to meet in the middle, we're going to
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
fucking middle right now, dude. So Cody charges across. Exactly. Cody charges across. They both jump midair, collide. I mean, this is almost like, again, if you go back to a month ago, you saw Wing C, where he took flight in the first 2 seconds of this fight. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. They just run into each other. There's
Yeah.
no strike landed. It's just two human slabs of meat just running into each other, and they retract. And then yes, they just don't meet in the middle at all. Cody Garbrandt spends the rest of the round doing nothing at all. But absolutely crazy. They actually get to the end, and I think they try to throw it down again, but it's obviously wasted. They
Well,
can't do it.
this is before the end, though. After, so okay, the collision happens. They're they don't end up actually tussling there, but they end up in a clinch. This I don't think is being talked about enough. Zhao Long need him in the nuts like 3 more times, and they only replayed the last one. But upon rewatch, I am telling you, people, if you're doing like Sanjay and you're rewatching these fights, watch what happens directly after the midair collision. They go into the clinch, and Cody acknowledges this. He's like, oh, and then he looks after the second one. He's like, again, and then the third one, finally, he's like, what the fuck? And then that was the one that they played the replay of. But if you go back, 3 more shots to the nuts. They only replayed the last one. 3 times he hits a second point deduction. That's when the translator has to be brought in, and he's saying, I will disqualify you if you keep kneeing this guy in the nuts. And I'm like, after 5 nut shots now, dude, it's
Yeah,
probably time.
Zhao Long is genuinely a special fighter because 27-11 makes total sense, because when you watch him, you're like, man, this is a good fighter. He's kind of solid. He really knows what he's doing. And you're like, how does 11 losses? Well, he's winning 30-27 and ends up losing 27-28 in the matter of 1 round. There's your reason of how he has 11 losses. This dude just doesn't give a shit. I mean, when you go back to Niem Jargal, he'll just break the rules because he don't give a fuck, bro. I mean, if he gets disqualified in the record book, it may not show, but in his memory, I kicked him in the head while he was on the fucking ground. Of course I won. What are you talking about? Some stupid shit like that. So
True. Yeah, we lost you for a quick second there, but I think we got the point. Yeah,
oh, good.
it's a no fucks given. I won regardless kind of thing. So
Yes.
he can hold his own victory off of that regardless. I that does track. But yeah, 28-27s across the board. Crazy to think that Zhao Long would have won this fight. And I did want to at least give a little brief mention of this, because it was actually a legitimate bar. Joe Rogan saying after this whole mess concluded, a lot to digest, but not very appetizing. I was like, well said, Joe. That is actually a legit banger right there.
Yeah, love it. But what I think is genuinely the most impressive thing, and Chad, I really hope you'll back me up here. Thinker, I know you will. Cody Garbrandt, in his post-fight scrum, he said that after this fight, he would love to see, and he thinks this is a perfect matchup for him, just the way that things are going with his career. He thinks David Martinez is a great matchup for him. He's an idiot. I hate to break it to you guys.
I'd love to see that fight, because that was one of the notes that I didn't mention, is that I think that Zhao Long one of his biggest mistakes in this fight was going for the kick so consistently to not test the very questionable chin of Cody Garbrandt. David Martinez certainly would.
Why are you not pointing out the obvious flaw that Cody Garbrandt is not good enough to face David Martinez? David Martinez is now a ranked fucking guy who's probably going to headline the next Mexico card or something, co-main event again, whatever you want to say. Cody Garbrandt has no business facing David Martinez. Cody Garbrandt gets Cheeto Vera, calls it a day. There you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that kind of goes without saying, honestly. Yeah, I mean, they're certainly in different echelons now. That goes to the delusion of Cody Garbrandt that he has always had in his career, which is very funny considering where he has gotten himself to. But Cody Garbrandt is coming off of a victory, sir. So the run starts now.
Yeah, a victory, a 30-27 victory that somehow became a 28-27 loss for Zhao Long.
Yeah, no,
Crazy.
fair enough. But yeah, no, I mean, David Martinez would make mincemeat of that chin. So yeah, that is pretty funny. But either way, that's really all that I got to say about this absolute shit show of a fight. Again, this card was cursed. This was about as cursed as fights get. Someone in the watch along said this was among the longest fights that we have ever watched. I was curious what the actual longest in cage time for a 3-round fight is. I have not looked it up, but I would venture to say that this might be close to it, barring fights that have weirdness with judging where we just have to wait that out.
We saw Kevin Holland not too long ago where he had the double nut shot as well, where he took more than the 5 minutes allotted.
True.
Um, so interesting stuff. I really kind of respect that pool there. That's a good trivia question. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to know the actual answer to that. So maybe somebody at some point could find that out, or we'll figure it out. But certainly up there, and certainly a sight to behold.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's move on to the main card here. This was a nice one and done, easy one. This was Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop versus Bruno Fajeda. I said, really, this you can sum this up very simply. This was one solid connection for Bruno and one even more solid connection for RoboCop, because that's about all that happened in this fight.
This, you know what's kind of funny? You said that's about all that happened. I think this fight told a lot about the story here more than actually happened. In a minute and 47 seconds, what you got out of this fight is, coming into this, Bruno stepped up on short notice and flatlined Gregory Rodriguez. That happened. We didn't know that coming into this because we don't know how to do research apparently, but that happened in the UFC. Now,
True.
down the line, these guys are a monster tears. But you come into this fight, and in a minute and 40 seconds, you genuinely feel that Bruno Fajeda has the utmost confidence. He has so much confidence in this fight. He's bouncing around. He's looking light. He's walking in RoboCop's face just to stop and then walk back, like he's just trying to fuck with him, kind of deal. And like as I'm watching this, and again, a minute and 40 seconds, I'm reading like Gregory Rodriguez in this position. You ever see the cartoon where the elephant is scared of the mouse kind of deal? Like this is where I was like, out of all the people, RoboCop will walk fearless into fucking Jared Cannonier, the Iron Turtle, all of these people. But when it comes to this short, stocky Bruno Fajeda, he's hesitant. He's on the back foot. He's waiting. He's picking his shots. And I was genuinely concerned. I'm like, no way. Is he gonna like let Bruno just walk him down like this and just not do anything about it? And I'm very happy to say that RoboCop is just, dude, he's here to fucking stand and deliver justice. I don't know what the fuck that dude says in the movie, but bro, he fucking just flatlines him with one crazy, not even, when you think of a hook, it's very tight, it's very pocketed. This was just more of a looping hook, like it's just a looping punch over the top. Bruno's guard was up, but right when it was lowering, the shot connected to the chin. And what I like about this one too, again, the story that was told in the minute 40 seconds. You have Gregory Rodriguez, who in the press conference, you feel the heat, that he has for Bruno. He's like, it's gonna be a good 15. I got 15 minutes to do what I want. I'm gonna figure it out. And Bruno's like, you had 5 last time and I finished you kind of deal. And the tension was there. But then you come into this fight, Gregory Rodriguez knocks him out with one punch. You flash back to what he did to Jack Hermanson. He gets him on the ground and he fucking just unloads on this dude. But you know what he does in this moment? You know how good I am? I knew I was better than you. Dude, Bruno was out, but like it wasn't, the ref probably could have let him take a little more damage. RoboCop didn't even need to do that, it
Uh,
wasn't even he could have fucking ended this dude if he really wanted to. 3, 4 more strikes,
no, yeah.
he didn't though. He knows that he didn't need to. And you gotta, again, if you go back to the Hermanson one, it's different because this one with the press moment, like he was confident that this is truly what he could do. There was no need for the follow-ups. There was nothing extra needed because everything he needed to say was in 2 fucking strikes.
No.
RoboCop cleared it. Love it.
You're yeah, no, I'm glad that you said that too, because yeah, I brought that up on the in the watch along, saying that yeah, he was spared the Hermanson treatment, but based on the narrative that you just outlined, it does fit so perfectly. Because I said the same thing. I said I was surprised that that Bruno couldn't tank that shot. I mean, it was another perfectly placed shot. I mean, it makes sense. RoboCop's power is insane. It is scary. It's all of the things that you know about it. So as advertised always with this guy. Somebody on the watch along said that RoboCop needs to move up. I said, are you fucking insane? Why would he ever move up if he is able to make this weight and is doing this? Like, there is no way he should be moving up. But so, yeah, I mean, based on the narrative, as you just said, definitely a perfect walk-off KO. Fajeda goes down, eyes wide open. You knew he was gone. I thought it was a little crazy that he wasn't able to tank that damage, but when it's a shot like that coming from a powerhouse like RoboCop, it makes sense. And revenge is a very sweet endeavor for RoboCop, I would suspect.
It's crazier to think this was the best that we had ever seen Bruno. Bruno came in the best shape of his life. Arguably, I was thinking this dude was on roids. Well, listen, the RoboCop is a scary fucking guy, and it's just I'm very happy for him because this performance, again, the way it started out, and again, when you watch it in hindsight, he's very measured, but when you're watching it in the moment, it's like, dude, he really is like stun locked by this short, stocky dude who obviously finished him before, but like it's still clouding his judgment. But the fact that he was able to just stay locked in and find that one shot, all that one shot just drops him. Not even a powerful shot, it's just a connecting shot. Like that's how powerful RoboCop is. It's because he doesn't need to like load up on these big bombs. He just throws his hands out there, and if it hits you, you go flying. And dude, the way Bruno went out, yeah, dude, it was nuts because he was gone, bro. He was really gone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know that there had been the conversation about his physique going into this fight. Fajeda was on back watch, didn't see any acne on the back, so he really could have just been putting that work in the gym potentially. I mean, who knows what the actual answer is, of course. But regardless, sometimes just don't matter. Sometimes it just don't matter. And when you got RoboCop on the other side of it, especially at this stage of his career, after what he has seen in the organization, RoboCop is another guy that, I mean, really, like, I always go back to that one performance, that one fight where he got that really gnarly gash in the middle of his face there, went on to win that fight. Like, this dude he's been forged by the fire. Now, he has lost. I mean, we've seen him lose to Cannonier. We've seen him lose to Christian Leroy Duncan, I believe, or whatever. Like, I mean, like, there has been times where he has taken the L, but he has improved. He has, I think that he is like, I think that over time he has been making the necessary changes to become better, and performances like this are what you get out of the other side of that improvement. So I'm very happy for him.
And to Sanjay's comment here, maybe RoboCop versus Strickland if Sean does not get the title. I think Sean is still elite company. I don't think you just give him anybody. I think RoboCop versus Fluffy might be a really good one for me.
I'm okay with that, based on what we saw out of Fluffy in the last outing. Fluffy's right back in the middle of the mix, as far as I'm concerned. I was very riding very high on Fluffy, thinking that he was going to be somebody who was going to be pushing himself into that elite status. Losing to Sean Strickland the way that he did, I think that he kind of goes right back into the middle of the pack. I like that fight.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, moving on to the next one here. This is an interesting case. This is Drew Dober versus Michael Johnson. I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole with this because we certainly could. But what I will say, just to touch on it, is that Michael Johnson has now been involved in 2 fights that had irregular line movement. if you go back onto my channel on Yama Show channel, you can find a video that I did, a live stream. Actually, it was a live stream just after the fight that got canceled with Alex Hernandez. It was basically, I think the title was something along the lines of "New Betting Scandal in the UFC. Is this the new normal?" And I talked about Michael Johnson versus Alex Hernandez and the line movement in that fight. You can put that one to the side. That happens. We're on to the next thing. Michael Johnson was on to the next thing. I actually saw an interview with him, I think just before this fight, the pre-fight interviews, where he was saying, yeah, it sucked that what happened with Hernandez, and I'm ready to go back in there. I got taken care of a little bit off the last one. We're back. We're at it for this. Seemed completely locked in, seemed very focused, like very normal. Nothing out of the ordinary. We come into this fight, and the line moves again. It moves in against Johnson. The line had moved in his favor last time. It moves against Johnson in this fight. There is a tweet that was going around saying that there was potentially some nefarious things going on with a street gang and a member of Johnson's family. Again, I don't think that it's necessary to go into the details. However, I bring it up to say that this tweet did say that Johnson would be knocked out in the second round, and then it happened. So I was actually going to make a video about it to go into all of this a little bit more, to kind of like just talk it through, because it's so strange. You can put as much stock or as little stock in this as you'd like to. It's really at your discretion. But the facts are as they are. I even outlined this in the Discord. The facts are Johnson's line moves. A person has a prediction that it's going to happen the way that it happens, then it happens. Mm-hmm. So I mean, if you can expand upon that if you'd like to, Chase. I just wanted to at least put that out there, because there was irregularities with this fight, and I did not get to cover it in time. So
I'm gonna say one thing that is a little speculatory to maybe give some sort of agreement to what you're saying, but I want to start by saying I do not believe that this is the true thing. I do not want to discredit what Drew Dober did in the cage. I think this is a great performance from him. But what I will say is that the first round did not look like it was going Drew Dober's way. Now, even the second round did not look like it was going Drew Dober's way up until it did. And the shot that actually landed in round two was a shot that Michael Johnson had been evading very easily up until the moment that he didn't. So I'm not saying that I'm into the conspiracy, but it is a little questionable for me to see that Drew Dober is he's not coming anywhere close with his overhand. He's looking like Jesus Aguilar for the first fucking, half of the round and a half kind of deal. He's just throwing wild overhands. He's setting up nothing. He's not really doing it. You hear his coach saying, give him the bounce, Dober, bounce them shoulders. It's like, brother, how about you fucking land a shot? Like, I mean, I get it. It's whatever. It's how it works. But like, Drew Dober wasn't having any success. And then he just lands a fucking monster of a bomb. And I get he has the most knockouts in lightweight division. This is what he does. Him landing bombs is nothing new. But Michael Johnson was looking fucking good, guys. That first round, I said Cody Garbrandt has not lost, or I predicted Cody Garbrandt had not lost his speed. I was completely wrong. Michael Johnson, I don't think I believed that he had lost his speed. But brother, it should be here for a really long time. This dude is still lightning quick. He still cracks. Drew Dober was wearing damage off of just straights and jabs kind of deal. Michael Johnson, formidable opponent, but very easily evading an overhand from Drew Dober up until just completely forgets that it was an option, I guess. I don't know. So you expand upon that if you would like, think.
No, I mean, really agreeing with everything you're saying. I mean, I said that MJ looked good in round one. Hand speed and movement still on point as I'd known they had been. I mean, I said the same thing after the Zellhuber fight. That was really where it was like, I've seen Michael Johnson so long. I've been a fan of Michael Johnson for a very long time. So I key into his fights. I got to see him win a fight live. It was one of those things. I have been a fan for a while. So like when he fights, I pay attention. I knew that he had these elements still. So I was like, you can go back to the watch along. The craziest thing to me, or like within the narrative that we're describing here, I had said, I thought that it might have been erroneous line movement. I had said, this is probably the community going off of the last situation that he had, that there might have just been, a spike because some people decided that they thought that, that they could sway things, make it look more of a situation than it might have been. That the reason I felt that way was because of what we were talking about here. How Michael Johnson looked in the first round is what informed that thought process. And he lived up to it in round one. Dober was very little output in round one, exactly what you're saying, kind of trying to find the range without achieving that. Then, after a lot of near misses, Dober finally reaches into the shot. I mean, if you see the shot that got him, it was the right over the top and then the straight left. And if you see the length on that straight left, he had to go a very far distance to make that work. So really, it's a lot of Dober not having the elements working for him until they did, and everything else that we just described is a cloud around that. Is, I guess, what I would like ultimately take away from it. I said, to play devil's advocate on the other side, I said if it was a dive, it was a very heavy dive to take, because I mean he was out. I mean, Michael Johnson gets knocked out. Like, there's a funny clip going around that Michael Johnson gets knocked out the same way every time. And it is kind of true. Like, he has this very specific like bodily movement that he does where he kind of goes like limp out and then sort of flops down. If you see the clip that I'm talking about, you'll know what I mean. But like, so it's like he did do that. So it's like the pattern was there. It was a knockout. Granted, he did come back too, and he was able to, give Dober a pat on the back, and and everything seemed fine after he came back around. But it was a hard way to go if that was the case. I don't know. It's just, again, these are the things that really cloud the sport, make it a little bit hard to know what's true and what's not true. And I hate that. I hate that it's associated with someone that I like Michael Johnson. I, I don't know, I guess, is what I end up with at the end of the day, Chase. I don't know what the actual answer is. And I don't know, like, if I could know, you know what I mean? I don't know if it's a noble thing one way or the other. All I say is that if his nephew was in any kind of danger, I hope that he's okay.
Absolutely. I hope that they won the fucking gamble, brother. I hope that round 2 play hit.
Yeah.
Because if Michael Johnson just took a dive for nothing, which is obviously not the case. This dude has been here way too long. He's a professional. He's in the fight game because he's 25-20, brother. He ain't got nothing else to do. He got to just come in here and fight the scariest dude in the division that's not ranked, kind of deal. So shout out Michael Johnson, and even more, shout out Drew Dober. I hate the fact that somebody out there could tweet their betting prediction in a way that sounds like nefarious crimes are being committed. And all that they're really doing is just giving their opinion on what they think is going to happen, but in a way that frames it as something heinous is going on. If they would have came out and said, I believe Michael Johnson gets knocked out in round 2, nobody's retweeting it, but he
Right.
is right. It's just
Yeah.
the fact that he framed it in a way that, like, that makes us think, oh, maybe something is going on. Now we got to put money against that, or we got to put money with that kind of deal. The
And
fact that it
to
happens
Well,
is
sorry, and to
is just a cherry on top. Go ahead. No.
got you. Sorry. To that point, though, it also it's crazy to think that nowadays, because I don't know what else may have. I guess that's another reason why this is such a crazy thing to me, is that if it was that tweet that did it, that's a crazy thing to think that one tweet or a group of tweets, a group of people, whatever it might be, that they have the pull to be able to. Because there were books that were taking bets off of this. Like, I remember E-Money J, one of the bettors in my chat, often said that, he was glad that he locked in when he did, because they pulled the fight. They would stop taking action on it. So to think that we are in an era where what you just described could be enough to sway the odds so definitively, that in and of itself is very concerning to me. You know what I mean? Like, and because you're exactly right, Chase. I mean, to bring it back around, Drew Dober deserves all of the credit here. I mean, like, if we're talking about all this conspiratorial bullshit, Drew Dober was the man that made this happen. Like, that's commendable and laud. And Drew Dober, one of the nicest guys in the game as well. So it's like, guy you want to root for. I like both of these guys. I don't like either of these guys having any of this cloud above them. But if these are the dynamics that can be big enough and strong enough to have fights pulled off of books, lines shifting, these kinds of things, dramatic spikes in a pick 'em fight turning into a heavy underdog kind of thing. We're just in a weird, brave new world when it comes to sports betting that makes things very untenable, that you're going to just continue to see over and over again, I guess, is my ultimate takeaway.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the story is. I assume we're gonna find nothing as a result, of course, just like the Bulgarian situation, but that's just how it goes. Shout out Drew Dober though. I agree with you. He's one of the nicest dudes. I follow him on Instagram now and I keep up with his stories, and he puts out some very quality content. So everybody out there, shout out Drew Dober's Instagram.
Absolutely. No. And again, Drew Dober, one of the biggest sweethearts in this game. You heard it in his post-fight speech. Hydra, I see you in the chat talking about the other element of this fight that everybody talks about. We can briefly touch on it very briefly. yes, Drew Dober has a record that is has a long streak against other ethnicities than his own. Drew Dober himself does not like this narrative. If you saw the video, that I don't know if I posted it in the Discord or if I just saw it on Twitter, but either way, there was a video of Drew Dober coming up to Michael Johnson before the fight and saying, "Hey, man." I like it was before the press conference, and he was like, "Look, I just want you to know I know the narrative around here. I'm not racist. Like I know that this is a thing. I have a niece who goes to school, and people tell her that your uncle is racist because of this. I do not like this. I am not that way. I just wanted to make sure that we're cool." And Michael Johnson was completely understanding of that. Drew Dober is not a racist, people. I know that this is a funny meme to run with because it is like just a thing. It's a one of those odd coincidences in this sport. It is humorous, but at the end of the day, I think you also do have to take one step back and realize that this is a human being who's getting an unfair framework around him off of this. So
You know who learned that lesson just a little too late? I think Ian Gary learned that a little too late because of what he, put Neil Magny through kind of deal,
yes,
unfortunately.
absolutely, you're absolutely correct, and think about the ramifications of that. So you're
Yeah.
very right. Good
And,
call on that, Chase.
and he's definitely tuned it up. He actually has been very professional, I would say, when it comes to his trash talking very recently. It's anything that's going to get people into serious, consequential, situations kind of deal.
I agree. I think Ian Gary was on track to be a legitimate MMA lol cow, and was for a brief while there. I mean, like between him and his wife and all that situation, he was in lol cow territory, and somehow he was able to right that ship and course correct. And I think he deserves a lot of lauding and credit for that. But my, again, going back to the original point, Ian Gary, luckily for the next opponent, will have that new mentality, but Neil Magny doesn't get that luxury. Drew Dober, I mean, he's having to live with it, is all I'm saying. So just, as much as it's a funny meme, I'd say also consider the human being here because again, he's not talking about it for himself. He's talking about it for his young niece. I mean, this is a kid in grade school he's talking about. So
Absolutely. And shout out Sanjay for doing the rewatch. Okay, fair enough. If Drew Dober was landing that shot, very often before it actually landed flush, shout out. But, it is what it is. I would say take that one step away from the conspiracy being true then. So that's fine.
there you go. Yeah. And, like I said, I'm not buying into the conspiracy, but as I had mentioned, the facts are that there was a tweet, there was a line movement, and there was a conclusion that met with what was predicted. So draw your own conclusion, make your own decisions about it. Just had to put out the facts as they are.
Absolutely.
But yes, ultimately, shout out to Drew Dober. Great knockout. Great guy.
Shout out fucking Nav.
Oh,
What the
always
hell?
shout out Nav. Are you kidding me? Nav
Hell
in the
yeah.
chat? Hell yeah, Nav. Appreciate you always, brother.
And I want to read his comment because he's that
Okay.
special. Yes, to influence the Lerone versus Mosvar fight, I will be sending a blurry DM of a rumor Mosvar has been eating sugary Kit Kat bars in the training camp. Fire. Getting done.
Plus 250 right there.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's move on from this one here. I think we've talked it through enough. Let's move on to this fight. I call this fight BMF Light. This is Raul Rosas Jr. versus Rob Font. One long round full of Rosas doing what the fuck he wanted to. I call this Ragdoll Rob as the other side of this thing, unfortunately. I called this one completely incorrectly. I thought that Rob Font, a veteran of this sport, a person who has been in there with many different people with many different styles, should have the wherewithal to deal with what Raul was doing, considering that this was a very basic I'm not saying basic as in this was not impressive. I'm saying that this was basic as in this was not dynamic. This was a very solid wrestling affair where Raul had his hands on him and he rolled him here and he put him in the cage here and he was on his back here. This was not out of the ordinary wrestling maneuvering that Raul was doing. He was just doing it very well. I would have thought that of anybody, Rob Font would have the wherewithal to have an answer for it. Clearly, he did not.
I find this one just unfortunately it's just so telling about how a lot of fighters are delusional and a lot of people are young and they grow out of their delusion. I think Raul Rosas is in the predicament where he's young and very delusional. He has been in the UFC for 4 years now. He has held his opponents down. He actually even used to finish people. He got a knockout before. He again submitted Ricky Tercios. Now he's in this predicament where all he does is hold people down, inflicts no damage, and then he gets on the mic and he talks about how he's still going to be the one to break John Jones' record, that he's going to be the youngest champion. Brother, you've been here for 4 years already. You have made zero progress in your game. If anything, you've been regressing, in my opinion. What in these next 2 years are you going to get better at that is going to make you championship level? Because as of right now, there's no belt coming for this performance. Nobody is the thing is, nobody's going to cheer and be entertained by this performance. You're not going to get many people that are going to want to pay to see you. You know, you're on pay-per-view because you're Mexican, guy. I mean, this is how it works sometimes. You're here because you're exciting. You're the youngest Mexican guy that has been in the UFC, the youngest guy, period, that's been in the UFC kind of deal. So you got a lot of flack. You've been around for, again, 4 years now. But the deal is, in these next 2 years, if you want to be the champ, you're gonna have to do a lot of drastic stuff, because by now, 4 years into your UFC career, we should have expected you to be able to stand on the feet with Rob Font for a second or two before spamming a takedown. And then when you do spam your takedowns, you hold him down, you get a submission, make it look easy, but you're not showing that you have elite skills. You can take somebody down, you can hold them down. There is the elite skill set there, but there's no finishing skill set there. That's not an elite skill set of finishing ability. It's just points. And we already know Torres Finney, he got figured out. There's people that hold people down. Hamzat Shmaev, he's got the belt right now, but he actually, listen, he landed 500 fucking strikes or whatever when he did the shit. This dude, 47 strikes against Rob Font. Rob Font, if he was a little more flexible, maybe he would have been able to have this a little different, but that fucking Amaplata or whatever he was, not the Gogo Plata, whatever he was looking for, it wasn't it, brother. This was just such a bad performance from both of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, really, you brought up the stuff on the mic afterwards. The thing that sticks out to me, especially after a performance like this, is him acknowledging, oh, I'm so mad at myself. I really wanted the finish. Where was the attempt at it? Is like, yeah, no, this was a control fest with no end in sight as far as actively trying to make this conclude. Like, it was a lot of just a lot of the ragdolling going on. I mean, Rob Font, I think, had a little bit of a plan in his own mind, I guess, if you could say. He had that low stance because he was anticipating the wrestling, but then didn't do anything to negate it for 3 rounds. He didn't capitalize on the start of the rounds. He didn't throw hands effectively, or many kicks even, to slow Rosas down or to get him off of his game. So really, Raul Rosas, the impetus is on Raul Rosas at this point, because you've heard me say the phrase before, blank canvas. Like, this is not necessarily 100% that, because Rob Font was, there were attempts here and there to try to like sway it in his favor. But if you are dominating this heavily, this is your time to be the guy that you are claiming to be, as you mentioned, Chase. The guy that you were saying, the youngest guy to reach the belt, blah, all of those things. He's not even the youngest guy in the UFC anymore. Like, all of
Right.
that mystique is way gone. So, like, you are the one who needs to make these things happen at this level. It's not happening. So, I mean, like, really, Raul Rosas, on top of the fact that we've talked about, being a younger guy, getting a little bit of scratch, he's got a little bit of money now, he's upping his game. He's got his nice shirts on. He's wearing gold chains. The guy is, he's a hood rich, is what I'm kind of calling him a little bit sometimes too. It does not seem like it's adding up to him being like anything more than run of the mill at this point. And a performance like this against Rob Font, who was not putting up as much of an effort to counteract these things, this should have been your time to really shine. We were just talking about David Martinez, right? David Martinez came in and made a name for himself off of Rob Font.
Yeah.
Raul Rosas already had a name. This should have been an easy finish that you could have been like, I am the man. You're just another guy to me now at this point.
I don't know if I would be on the forefront to say that this should have been an easy finish. I get what you mean in circumstances. Yeah, this is this is what they were propping him up for. You finish Rob Font and you're headed to big stages. You finish the guy who's never been finished kind of deal, and you're 22 years old kind of
And
deal.
that's why I say it wouldn't have been an easy finish, but if you make it happen, that's how you gain the name. It's the same thing with Melchizedek Costa and Dan Ige. You know what I mean? It's like you do the thing you create your star power. You already Raul Rosas Jr. brings in star power just off of circumstance. He came in, as like you said, the young guy, Mexican dude, obviously with the facial features, he's somebody that people remember his name and his face. He had a little bit of an aura just by happenstance. This is where you can actually make your name as a fighter.
Yeah.
Did not do that.
No, I absolutely agree. It's unfortunate because if Rosas Jr. is still planning to take his merry old time, I got plenty of time. I got 2 years to become champ. One, that comes a lot quicker, and two, do you think you just gonna break the record by a week, my guy? Like, you could have been the youngest champ and been 19 years old if you would have actually stood on the fucking gas. You see how quickly Josh Van was able to rise the ranks? You should be looking around your peers and wondering why younger people are lapping you. Like, it's just crazy to me. Raul Rosas is really squandering his opportunity to be genuinely one of the greatest of all time. He wants to retire at 25. It's like it's funny because people always say that, I want to get the belt and I'm going to retire. I'm going to be super young. Plans are going to change when he's not the youngest UFC champ ever, when he doesn't have the belt and he's not the youngest guy. And then when he's 25 and he's thinking about retiring, well, you haven't accomplished anything yet. So you're probably going to reevaluate. But young people say stupid things all the time. So I'm not going to really hold it against you. But you should just be a little more real about it. Like, this is not championship level performance right here.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I kind of tipped the hand a little bit at the beginning of this thing, though, and we'll talk about the main event in a little bit here. But smacked of the main event to an extent, like, is Raul Rosas not potentially the BMF based on this performance?
No, he didn't attempt a single submission.
Yeah, true. It's a good point. That does track. One thing we've been pretty hard on Raul. I will at least say there was one moment that I did want to give him some credit for, because it did show the dominance that he does have is valid. There was a takedown in the second round by Rob. Or excuse me, no. Raul initiated it. Rob reversed the takedown. He ended up on Raul's back. Then Raul did have a very beautiful reversal of that. So we're saying all of these things not to say that Raul Rosas is not very, very good at his wrestling. I think that really Rob Font did anticipate a lot of what he ended up encountering. He just didn't have an answer for it because of how good Raul is. And that you cannot take away from him necessarily. But to think that then translates to star power, translates to a belt thereafter, that I think is where we're kind of criticizing.
I think the unfortunate part is, after all, he is the only guy who represents Mexico that fights like this. Like it, everyone else has some sort of striker in them. It's just how it is, dude. And Raul Rosas just kind of refuses to do it at this point, and it's just unfortunate because I don't get, like, this is the type of shit that, like, Torres Finney, I'm trying to think who the other guy was tweeting. Somebody tweeted at Torres Finney, when he fucking lost, and he was upset that, like, why didn't he get the scorecard kind of nod or whatever? It's like, well, you're not doing anything. Raul Rosas reminds me, he kind of gives me the vibes of somebody who would stick up for Torres Finney. Like, what are you guys talking about? That's a great performance right there. And it's like, yeah, well, you're just out of the fucking loop, kid. Like, just, I don't know.
And we have seen Raul Rosas knock a dude out before. You got to remember that too. I mean, he has a knockout on his record. So it's like, it's not like you don't have at least enough power to stand if you wanted to, at least to try it out, give it a shot. If you're that good on the ground, you can always fall back to it. But, I mean, these are just the navigational errors that are starting to crop up with Raul Rosas, and it's becoming more and more apparent because it's happening more and more.
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately so. So, yeah, I mean, really nothing else to say about this one. Raul gets the pretty easy dub, 30-27s across the board. Makes sense. I was severely let down by Rob Font in this fight, specifically because of that other side. And, even if he had a game plan, Raul is just that good with the wrestling, perhaps. But all of what we said is as it is. So, great job, Raul. Keep it
Absolutely.
up. All right, well, let's move on to the co-main here. This is, of course, Caio Bahaio versus Reinier de Ritter. This is an interesting fight to me because I've seen a lot of different versions of how people felt about this. What I will say to lead into this is that 30-27s across the board is ridiculous any way that you cut it. There is no way that this was a 30-27 victory for Caio Bahaio. Now, which rounds you decide are the ones that should have been lost, that I think gets into a little bit more murky territory, especially after rewatching. So, Chase, I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this.
I mean, this all started. I was watching the fight marathon. The fight marathon that they play on YouTube before these cards. And it'll show you all the finishes or all the wins from the fighters that are on the card. Well, Kaio and Paul Craig's fight was up there, and I'm watching the way Paul Craig is fighting against Kaio, and I had this realization that this is nothing new for Kaio. This is the exact same fight. Uh, Paul Craig is, yes, not as good on the feet, but he has the same skill set. He uses them the exact same way. He stands super tall. He'll throw a knee up there. He'll throw some kicks out front, but nothing else really you have for him. Once Kaio is able to just dip in and out and he has such a slick style that is so fast. De Ritter just really didn't have anything. I honestly feel there was a point in the third that they showed the striking numbers, and I was almost certain that they were lying just to make it seem like Renier de Ritter was doing something a lot more because I did not think that he wasn't landing much in my opinion. Kaio was really slick and just in and out on everything. And the grappling, I actually want to give a lot of credit to Renier de Ritter. I thought he was doing a lot of good work with the wrestling grappling. He was doing so much good work that like Kaio had to again, a lot of these fighters are very delusional. This is the one thing. I picked Kaio to win. I'm very happy that Kaio won. I thought he won 30-27 as a matter of fact. But what I will say is he went into his post-fight speech and he said, "This fight right here proves my grappling is elite. I am the," and exactly the face that I said. I agree you won 30-27. I agree you won. I thought you should have won. But if you left this performance and you said to yourself, "My grappling is the best it's ever going to be. Give me Hamzat Chimaev right now." That's not the right move, brother, because it did not look that good. I mean, De Ritter was holding you down for almost 3 minutes, and there was times where he grabbed your leg from under you, and you were sitting on your butt for a second, and you looked like you had to think how am I going to get out of here? Now, obviously, you did, and you won the performance, but it was listen, it was against somebody who after the second round, you realized in this fight, unfortunately, on the other side of the spectrum, Renier de Ritter, the cardio is never going to be there. He doesn't have it. This dude huffing and puffing. He's taking the biggest breaths, like he's like sucking in his nose. The old thing, like in through your nose, out through your mouth. Like, dude, I don't know what it is, but he just doesn't have fight cardio. I mean, 3 rounds, I give it to him. I knew he probably was going to make the judge's call on that one. But 5 rounds, I mean, I just don't see him being able to make it at this level anymore. He's kind of getting older. Maybe back in his one days, he might have been able to be a little more have a little more spring in his game. But the cardio right now, dude, the way that he was breathing, and that should tell you something because Kaio was also tired. He slowed down a lot in this fight, but De Ritter was not able to capitalize on those. The grappling looked fine. It didn't make Kaio look elite, but they were both getting sluggish, and neither one of them really kind of took the reins of this fight. It was just Kaio was winning. He started the rounds winning, and De Ritter just kept following. He just kept plodding around, and when the grappling didn't work, he didn't really have many answers for it.
Yeah, so a lot of what you're saying, I think, is basically what this conversation comes down to in a broader sense with like the community sentiment. This fight has a lot of like specific optics to it, is what I as the way that I would describe it. Because you're saying that that 30-27 was correct. I think that there are people who do agree with that. And like I don't necessarily, especially on the rewatch, I don't, but I think that there are optically reasons why that tracks for a lot of people. So what I would say to this is that I mean, I'll try to hit a couple of your points because I think you made a bunch of good ones. So in round one, there were basically some like good single shots on either side. To your point that there was not like a defining moment essentially of this fight, definitely tracks. Like I don't think that either one of them really had the one thing that it's like that made him win. You could say that it was Kyle with the early shots because all 3 rounds he did land like a big shot early. So it's like that sort of frames the rest of the round maybe if that's like your the first thing that you see. But again, if you go through the rounds, there was a good amount of training, especially in that first round. I thought the first round was really the closest round to me, because like it was all single shots. That also makes it very hard to like latch on to either one of the performances as that's the thing, because it's like if you punch, then I punch, then you punch, and it's like we're just going around in circles here. We're on a merry-go-round, which is really what it kind of came down to. Then so I said that was a close round. Round one was very close. I thought the whole fight was pretty close in that way. Good connections on both sides. I thought that Kaio barely edged it with the volume of the touches at that point. I said that in round two, though, I thought RDR took that round pretty not handily, but just enough. I think that again, optically, it was the extended clinch in round two that made it seem like he wasn't doing enough, because he had Kaio against the cage for a very long time, did not do anything with that. He didn't even see the knees that he got against Bo Nickel at that point. It was really inactive. And then he eventually just broke. Like there was no conclusion to it. And I'm like, these are the times where you need those moments. You need to be putting punctuations on these things, because what everybody saw was a very long extended clinch with no actual value to it. And that is how that one ended up going. So, I thought that outside of that, though, he still outstruck Kaio enough in that second round. And in addition to the clinch, I thought it kind of went his way for that. So that I think was where I got to with a 1-1 going into the third. And then the other optic thing, the last thing that I'll mention about this, which really I think sells it the most, is that whether the slips were just that, whether they were slips or whether they were sloppy intentional level changes, I think RDR really did himself a disservice by all of these awkward movements that ended up with him on the ground, because there was one in the first round and Joe Rogan even acknowledged it. He's like, I don't know if it was a slip or not, or if it was, because of the connection, but there was a little bit of the connection and he slipped. So it's like, you decide, what do you take out of that? Do you say it's a connection and it was, and he went down off of that, or if it was a slip? The point is that many times he did that through this fight. He's on the ground awkwardly a number of times. And then that goes to your point about the cardio. RDR's cardio, again, another thing Joe Rogan had said, it looked like he's conserving. Brother, it did not look like he was conserving. It looked like he was huffing and puffing, and that he was tired, and that he was holding back at that point because he needed to hold back to be able to make it to that third round. These are all optical elements that really make it very easy for a person to lead themselves to the conclusion that Kaio walked away with this thing. I think that 2-1 Kaio is correct. I think that all three judges going 30-27 was not correct. But I do think Kaio won this fight in the big picture. The decision was ultimately right.
This is another good example. I brought it up a little earlier, where people, they have this idea that every fighter has, they got to do everything the exact same. When this fight gets brought up, and I'm like, man, I think Kaio really has got the style that can do this, and everybody's like, nah, De Ridder's gonna smash him with those knees, man. It's like, here we go again. Like, do you only know that he can do one thing, and that's what you just ride with? Because I said I don't think it's going to be that easy. Kaio has a different type of stance. He stands very sideways. Where's the knee going to land? I mean, he's just going to step to the side. And for the most part, De Ridder had no affecting knees that did anything. He had one, I think, early in the first, and then the second knee that he had landed right to Kaio in the dick. They actually kicked each other in the dick. So
dueling dick shots. That was,
yeah,
yes, that was.
that was an interesting one. But no, I thought 30-27. I mean, Kaio, maybe because I don't know. I think Kaio really won all these one, but I will admit that it was not the star-studded performance that he would like you to believe after that. Like, grappling being elite, like, this should tell you that I'm the guy when it comes to the grappling. I mean, I would not go that far. Hamzat would do disgusting things to you. So that's just
Yeah,
how
no,
it is.
that was certainly a point that was brought up on the watch along, that the self marketing was not correct for how Kaio was conducting himself after this performance, for sure.
Yeah, but hey, fighting nerds are back. You heard it.
Indeed. Well, and I got to give a shout out to 10-7 in the chat here, of course, saying RDR title run begins now. Kaio Bahayo shakes his cup at you vigorously.
Oh yes, I love the jerking it. I don't know what that was about, but it worked. It got him back in there, and he got the dub.
Sometimes you just got to jork it, bro. I mean, that's just how it goes. It was interesting to me, though, that he was the only one that reacted, though, because RDR tanked the nut shot. He stood there with his hands on his hips, like, what are you doing, brother?
He comes from one, dude. They have that steel Muay Thai cup. Joe Rogan talked about it plenty on the thing. But
He
yeah,
always does.
The one thing that I'll say, and hopefully Toby's out there listening, but if you shake it once, that's fine. Shake it twice, that is okay. Shake it 3 times, you are definitely playing with yourself. So,
Jorker's gonna jork, my man.
yep.
All right, yeah. So, I mean, anything else on Kaio and RDR here?
I It's unfortunate that we've already seen Kaio against Imavov, is what I would say. So,
That's a good point. Yeah, there that was part of the conversation that did arise after this is like what becomes of this now, and what I keep saying is that like Imavov needs to get himself back in here and just like just so that things can get sorted out because it's like, dude, your name is obviously right there. The sorting needs to happen one way or another. You're the one who's saying that you are okay with fighting Hamzat. If that's the truth, then as soon as Hamzat is healthy or decides that he is healthy or whatever, decides he wants to come back, that really needs to be the fight to make because all the rest of middleweight is just kind of a big jumbly mess right now. And we need to get you sorted out and then the rest can get figured out.
right, not everybody can be riding a W, dude. We need not one fight win streaks. We need people to be fighting. If Imavov wants to fight Strickland, that's fine. But Kaio, we're gonna need to find you somebody, brother. I'll tell you. Where's
Yeah.
MVP at these days? God damn it, fighting an unranked person.
Good point. Yes, indeed. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's about it for that. RDR back to the drawing board if there is one. RDR stock dropping pretty much fight over fight at this point. Sad to say.
There were people that were genuinely saying this was the guy to beat Hamzat. Just
I,
remember that.
and I, yeah, I want to be very clear. I was never that person.
Yes, I'm not shading Thinker here, guys. I'm shading the people in the chat. You know who you are.
Yes, even though I did pick RDR to win this fight and was roundly wrong about that. But again, I thought again, optics though. At least this is the last thing I'll say about this fight. There are people, if you go on Twitter right now, who are furious with the judges on this one, saying these judges are blah 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 this and that. RDR won that fight, but bunch of people who had money on this fight, obviously. But still, my point is that if they are willing and able to put their asses out in that way, then optics did play a lot in this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is what it is. I'm glad that Kaio got this win.
Yeah, and power to him, man. I mean, for somebody who's goes out with his hands as low as he does, sticking his face right in people's faces and saying, "Come and get it," like he made this win happen. So good for him. All right, well, that brings us to the main event of the evening here. Of course, this is Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira 2. This is for the BMF title belt. Before we get into this fight, Chase, I have to ask. So the BMF belt means different things to different people. To some people, it means the most exciting fight you could ever see. To other people, it is a belt that is completely meaningless and has no value whatsoever. It is a paper title that is completely made up. What do you think about the BMF? Just to frame this fight, like where do you stand on that argument? And then we'll talk about the fight.
I think the story of the BMF has been crafted perfectly so far. Up until actually not so far, but up until we had the fight with Max Holloway and Ilya Taporia, I think the BMF had validity up until that point. And the fact that it did not transfer over to Ilya, I think is where I stopped caring about the belt because I just watched the dude beat the BMF. How are you going to tell me that that's still the BMF? And not only did he beat him, I mean, he knocked him out viciously. So I have always been a little hesitant to believe that Max Holloway, like I don't even look at Max Holloway as the BMF. When this fight came up, it's like, one, it's not a title fight, and two, I mean, it's a BMF fight. Like, oh, it is. Like, forgot about that. But it's just hard for me to buy into it because I know who the real BMF is right now, and it's not even like I'm playing make believe and just giving it to Yuri Prohaska or something. Like I can just say anybody's the BMF, but no, truly, the dude beat him he defended the belt, knocked him out, took his BMF belt off of him. In my opinion, that's how that works. But it's just insane that we're going into this one. And they did a decent job with the promos. It started out with Jorge and Nate and Dustin and Justin, yada yada yada, and then Max and Justin, and it's great. But then when you get into this one, I think I bought into it again. Like I kind of was like, okay, we're back on track. Max is the BMF. I can live with it. Now let's get into Charles because this dude's a marauder, man. This guy is they, what did Max say in the promos? This was so bad. Max in the promos that you heard all night. I've never been in a boring fight. When was the last time you saw me in a boring fight? Shit like that. And here we are. So
Yeah. Well, so you extended it a little bit farther, but I think that your initial point was exactly why I asked that question. Yeah, like the BMF belt, I was very skeptical of it to begin with. When it was first announced, when it was first created, it was supposed to be a one-off belt for a one-time thing, and then it turned into something that extended past. Skeptical of that as well. We ended up seeing fights where I found value in it based on how people were fighting. Then it got cut off from essentially the dude who lineally should be the BMF now. So I think that really all of what you said, everything else still tracks, but like that's where I would have ended the statement, where it's like we saw the BMF get knocked out. That's the BMF, whether he's holding this piece of paper belt or not. So that as the framework for that, I guess to continue on with your thought process, I still could find value in the idea that this is the fight like your life depends on it belt, because that's always how I've looked at it for value, because it doesn't matter in the big picture. It is a made up fictitious belt. Each division has a belt already. Those are the belts. This is an additional thing. This is the TV title in the WWE. So if you look at it for what it can do for a fight, still here? Sorry.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It's a little cut off there for a second, but
No, you're fine.
So
Continue on.
yeah. So if you look at it for what it can do for the fight, that is where the value lies. When I see a fight like this for the BMF title, it would signal to me that we no longer have a BMF title. And I'm going to say that with the full understanding and caveat that this was a very dominant performance. This was a fantastic grappling performance. There was a lot of dangerous moments early on in this fight for Max Holloway. He had to fight the hands often. Charles was certainly searching for the submission. All of those things are true. But if it's the fight like your life depends on it belt, after round 2, I think that you can't really call it that anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, I definitely agree. This one, it was hard on your heart because, again, I was telling Thinker about this. I went to work. This was the first time that people that I worked with, they were like, hey, I watched UFC this week and I watched the main event. That shit sucked. And I'm like, I don't even have anything to tell you. It's not like I can sit here and defend Max. I mean, what was he supposed to do? He did everything that he was supposed to do, defend all the submissions. Obviously, Charles is going to get him down and he's going to go for submissions. Max Holloway is now a black belt, if anybody did not know. He's
Yeah,
a
I saw
black belt
that.
now for defending all of the choke attempts from Charles Oliveira. And yeah, what can you say? The feet, when it was on the feet, that's what is the most frustrating part, is because it's not like Max was just dicing Charles up that made Charles shoot. No, Charles was arguably winning on the feet as well. He was rocking Max every time until he got close enough just to pick him up and throw him on the ground. I mean, it was a Big Brother performance if I had ever seen one, but it's unfortunate that this is just the matchup that we got for the BMF. Because yes, I agree, this is supposed to be the most entertaining fighters fight kind of deal. And if that's not what we're getting, and again, you cannot, you can't calculate what's going to be an exciting fight. And it's not always going to be an exciting fight, but for the most part, they've gotten it right. So the fact that we came here and we did not get a barn burner of a performance, it only leads me to believe that somewhere along the line, somebody told Charles Oliveira, if you win this, you can get a rematch for the belt. And that's the only reason that I think that he fought this way, is because he, in his mind, if I play it as safe as possible, if I get the win, I will get an opportunity to get my belt back, kind of deal. That's the only thing that I see happening right there.
Yeah, either that or just the idea of holding a belt period, might have also been it. But no, yeah, I mean, to address a couple of those points, you always bring up a couple of good points in your passages here. What Max was supposed to do is get the fuck up. That's what he was supposed to do. I mean, you know, people have been saying about how, oh, you know, this is a boring fight on the ground. For it's like he fought the hands for all those, you know, for those first 2 rounds. After that, I mean, like every time that, especially early on in the fight, round one, Max was emoting. He's raising his eyebrows. He's doing little facial expressions or whatever. He gets up. He does this facial expression when he's going back to his corner, like, well, that was something, wasn't it? Then he had 4 more rounds of it. It's like,
Mhm.
dude, this is what you got to do. This is the fight that you are in. I don't care if every other fighter that you fought has been a guy that's going to play your game. Like if this is the game that is being played, you got to have an answer for it. And he clearly did not. Also, that goes to the dominance of Charles Oliveira. So I acknowledge that as well. You know, I mean, as far as the entertainment aspect of it, another shout out to CTE. He said one time something that has really stuck with me, and I've kept it on through the ages now, where he said, uh, I prefer to have entertainment in my entertainment. I watch fights for entertainment. I'd like them to be entertaining. I cannot fault a person for thinking that way. I mean, like because people have said, you know, especially during the chat during the watch along and on the commentary, oh, you know, people are booing. These guys are casuals if they're booing. No one is taking away the dominance of the ground game of Charles. But when it gets to a point that you're watching 5 rounds of it and the submission attempts stop after round 2, I mean, really, first 2 rounds, I was all in on this. Max is fighting the hands, rear naked choke attempts. He's having to pry the bar off. I mean, like he's doing all of these things, and Charles is having to readjust, re-get it. When we're in round 3 to 5, and it's just now surviving through that without those attempts still going on, I don't think that anybody is wrong in their thought process of I am not finding this very entertaining anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just unfortunate because we all expected more from Max. We all expected Charles to, throw caution to the wind a little more, but excuse me, guys, jeez. But a 45-50 performance, it's what we got for the BMF. Now Charles owns it. And now we have to pray they strip him because like can we really trust no because like seriously can we really give Charles a BMF performance after that, like
Right.
he didn't follow through on the BMF part of it, so if you give him another one, do we expect him to actually do it next time? Like we expected him to do it this time, like
Yeah.
he's a marauder, man. Like what happened? So
Well, and that actually also brings me back to one of the points that you made that I did not address, which was that is the craziest part to me. What you said about the striking. I mean, if there was anything that was surprising in this fight, it was Charles on the feet. His striking looked really solid against Max. He had him stung a couple of times before those takedowns. Max had one like minor moment of success, a couple of tags in round 4, I guess you could say, like at the beginning of it, right before it was back to business for Oliveira. Minor success on the ground in the 5th, just until Charles reforces his will again. I mean, like Charles was roundly winning this fight. If Charles wanted to retain BMF status and not and survive that assessment that you just laid out, where people are talking about him possibly being stripped of the belt, then that striking that was already working for him would have been a good way to do it. Because like, why would you not if you were having that level of success? And also for the fact that he looked so much bigger than Max. Like Charles is not necessarily a person that I immediately think in my mind that's a huge guy. He looked huge compared to Max in this fight. So I mean, like you had all of the pieces of BMF in your hands to play with, and where you took that was creating a puzzle on the ground.
yeah, this one's unfortunate. I don't know where they go from here. Um, I guess you gotta just go for Connor and give Connor the lightweight BMF opportunity if he can make 55. I guess or 50, whatever it is, 55. Yeah,
Sure.
give it to him.
I guess so. I mean, even DC, Mr. Wrestling was saying, is this BMF worthy? I think that speaks for itself too, you know. So could Connor come back and be the one to breathe new life into the BMF belt? You think that that would be the case, Chase?
I think that's the only one that would because like Dustin, Justin's fighting for the real belt. He's not going to do it. Dustin's retired. Any other person that you can think of. I mean, Armin, but that's not BMF worthy. Like at this point, Charles has to fight somebody that's BMF worthy. Like if not, then why the fuck did you give him the BMF belt? Like
Sure.
I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, really, I think that that pretty much sums this thing up. You know, one long round of what you saw. That's really exactly what this was for the most part. The only other last little note that I had was that it was unfortunate to see Max break his own rule. losing the entire fight and then doing the point to the ground. I was like, if the BMF belt is dead, then that is really dead. I mean, I thought that was already dead after the Jailton Almeida versus Rizvan Kuniev fight. That would be the definitive death point for that for me. But if there was any question, then it is certainly dead now.
Max took it to the grave with him for sure. But I feel like in that moment he thought to himself, "Fuck, those guys are right, man. Fuck, give me my opportunity, bro. You're gonna not let me fight the entire time. These last 10 seconds, you give me that. You fight me right now." And I, you made the rule, brother. But you figured out real quick that if you get held down for 20 minutes, that you want them last 10 seconds. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, your new BMF champion, people, Charles Oliveira. What happens to this belt now is anybody's guess. What they do with this now, like what they do with this dynamic now, is going to be very interesting. How you move forward with this as the new reality. A little bit of a question mark, I guess. Dan Hooker saying that crying after receiving the BMF belt is gay, I thought was pretty funny. Obviously, in context, very funny, but probably something to that to an extent, maybe. I mean, like, it certainly does not add any kind of positivity to an already negative situation. My point is, brave new world for the BMF. Who knows what's going to happen?
True, 100%. But yeah, that was definitely a main event. I'll tell you that.
Indeed, it was, and that. At the end of it was UFC 326, Holloway versus Oliveira 2. Chase, after talking it through, final thoughts on this card.
I had a really good time with this card. I know it didn't go the way for a lot of people, but at the end of the day, we had fights, and there was some that were very entertaining, some that threw a lot of bullshit at you. And of course, it was the emotional roller coaster that the UFC continuously brings for you.
You know, I like this new positive version of Chase Parton here. The glass half full kind of Chase is very good to counteract the sullied, negative, surly thinker St. James on this one, because I thought that this was a cursed event if there ever was one. I was not very satisfied with the quality of this event. A couple of choice moments, like I said, Alberto Montes. I certainly can hang my hat on someone like that. I liked RoboCop's knockout. There were certainly a couple of nice moments. Even the one, I'm not saying that every fight needs to end in a finish for it to be a quality event, but there was a lot of times on here where I was dissatisfied. I think that translated a little bit on the watch along as well. So sorry for everybody if I was getting a little negative, but these, I watch a lot of Muay Thai now. I'm used to action and those kinds of things. It's like, sometimes it's not adding up, and these are the $7.7 billion products that the UFC is putting in front of us. I think that I am owed a little bit more for what we are trying to be sold by them.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, that is what it is. Do you want to read off our totals as far as our predictions go as we get into the next card here?
Yes. So the totals heading into this next week, I am at 57 points. You are coming in at 42.
Oh my God.
It's not that bad. I got up 15. I could trickle down 15. It's not that crazy. But I want you to go ahead and introduce this Apex card. I'm going to run to the restroom so I can actually give my in-depth opinion on a lot of these.
All right, you do just that. And as Chase does it, chat, you know the deal. Anytime that Chase has to run to the restroom, you guys in the chat are allowed to spam L's, give him as much shit as you can. I have to go to the bathroom too. I've had to go to the bathroom since we were talking about the White House card. Do I do it? No, because I sit here like an absolute G with you guys. So if you are still rocking with us, feel free to throw as many L's and insults towards Chase Parton as you would like. But that being said, the card upcoming is, of course, UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Vallejos. This is a card that's actually a lot better than I think some people are giving it credit for. There's a couple of really good fights on this card, a couple of names that you're definitely going to recognize, and a lot to discuss with it. I mean, I think that there is some good potential for some really entertaining fights with this. And, I mean, Chase is definitely going to come back and have some things to say about Josh Emmett. I think that this might actually be a good bounce back potential for Josh Emmett against Vallejos, not in the sense of winning, but in the sense of action, because Josh Emmett is coming off of a very underwhelming loss to Youssef Zalal via armbar. That is a pretty bad stain on his record right now, I would say. One that he is going to have to gain a lot of ground from. Josh Emmett, a guy who's probably already on the end of his career. I mean, the guy is 41 years old, so Is there ground to be regained is the question. Can he do it against the much younger Vallejos? Probably not, to be perfectly honest, but if he goes out there and slugs it, then there is potential for a banger.
Okay, I am back. What did I miss? Please tell me that you picked your boy Josh Emmett finally.
I was just going over it a little bit. No, what I had said is that I believe that this could be a bounce back fight for Josh Emmett in a very specific way. Does he win this fight? No, I don't think that he wins this fight. What he could do is overcome the very bad stigma that he now has on himself based on the fact that he got submitted so quickly and so easily by Yusuf Zalal.
Yeah, I think this one is interesting because, yeah, Josh Emmett did not leave a good impression for me on his last performance. But what I will say, Kevin Vallejos did exactly what I expected him to do in his last performance, which was finish Giga Chikadze, who had never been finished before, on the feet. He did exactly what I needed him to there to prove that he is, somebody who's a very good prospect in the division. But Josh Emmett, when it comes to getting knocked out, I mean, the beard, man, I think it's making me think that he might be able to absorb a big punch from Vallejos. But he is the type of dude that tanks punches. He doesn't, Giga Chikadze had to get caught kind of deal. But Josh Emmett, he takes all the punches to the chin. So it's a little different, kind of.
Oh, no, 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 sure. Yeah, I think that this has the potential to be a very slug heavy, a big boxing affair between these two guys, a lot of punches going either way. Really, what it's going to come down to for me is if Vallejos can get active earlier. If you recall in the Chikadze fight, it took a while for Vallejos to find that shot. I mean, he was really inactive early on in that fight to the point where it was very noticeable. We're saying, dude, you got to get more active in your fights here. Josh Emmett, it's not necessarily going to give him that leeway if you're trying to strike with him. So I think that it's going to be a good test of Vallejos' chin. We'll see if he ends up taking some big shots from Emmett, and if he can tank those. Emmett can probably tank a lot of what he's going to be bringing to the table. Does Josh Emmett get knocked out? I don't necessarily think so. I think this ends up being a solid, it may be a late knockout potentially if he gets really worn down, but I think that this ends up just being a big back and forth slugfest until the two of these guys are super gassed out, turns into a long range decision, and that Vallejos ends up on the right side of it.
So you're taking Vallejos, yeah?
I am. I am going to take Kevin Vallejos on this one. Even though I am a fan of Josh Emmett, as much as I know he probably does not deserve my fandom anymore.
41 years old, man.
That's the other thing that I mentioned that too. I mean, he's got to be closer to the end of his career. He's getting closer to the end of his career every day,
Yeah, absolutely. So Vallejos, I am also taking for sure by decision.
All right. Yeah, that's what I was saying too.
5 rounds. Oof.
That's the thing. I mean, that's what I mean. I think it ends up being a sluggy 5-rounder. They get tired towards the end. Slugs start being a little bit less frequent. They start dancing around. Maybe late finish is possible.
Youthful endurance is what I'm going to go for here.
Yeah, and I think we've been seeing a lot of youthful endurance, especially out of the Hispanic fighters. The level. David Martinez comes to mind as well. Like these kinds of guys at this stage, 24 years old, with the accuracy. Now, I'm not even saying that Vallejos was necessarily that dynamic a fighter. I mean, like he's not super light on his feet, if you recall as well. But if he can tank the shots, that's going to be the big question. Tanks them, fine. Josh Emmett, it's not enough there anymore. Could he land a big bomb? He could, though.
True.
So, but I will go with Vallejos, and did want to give a shout out to Did You See the News? Another new viewer. Appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you, bro.
Appreciate you for picking us over to fucking Guru, kid.
Hey, my man. All right. So we're both locked in on Vallejos.
Vallejos it is.
All right. Well, next up in the co-main event, which used to be the main event, if you can believe it, Amanda Lemos is fighting Jillian Robertson. My girl, Jilly. Vitz King's girl, Jilly.
This one, I would like to believe that Amanda Lemos is kind of on a little bit of a hot run right now, but she's still 38 years old. Granted, she does have less losses than Jillian at that advanced age, but Jillian Roberts, 30 years old, she's actually a sleeper. Not many people give her the credit that I feel like she's due, but I'm gonna still go ahead and I'm gonna go with Jillian. I know Thinker's gonna go with Jillian too, and I feel like we're already starting off picking the same pick, so it's gonna be an interesting week.
Well, last time it didn't work out so well for me, Chase. So it's I gotta go with the gut as usual. But if they are the same, then I gotta stick with it. And yes, I am going with Jillian Robertson. Jillian Robertson, it's not even like her record really would lead you to believe that she's like that great of a finisher at this point. I mean, 16-8, the losses are at that halfway point. What I always say, as those losses get to the halfway point, that's really when you got to reconsider. But Jillian Robertson, I don't think that the record necessarily reflects the quality of the fighter. Amanda Lemos is a person who has had moments of decentness, moments of maybe extraordinary, but like never been elite to me. Like, she's, I will never forget the fact that she was in one of the most one-sided title fights of all time. So that kind of sticks out. Now, granted, Jillian Robertson, not of the caliber of Amanda Nunes, but still, I just think that she's been good, not great for a lot of her career. And Jillian Robertson has a tool set that can get the job done better. So that's where my thought process is.
And to everybody out there, I know you just listened to me do it for the entirety of the time I talked, but for one more time, everybody out there listening, her name is Jillian Robertson. There is a son at the end of it. I don't know why I get Jillian Roberts all the time. It's Jillian Roberts' son, guys.
Everybody seems to do this. You are not alone. I think Vitz King, who is a huge fan of hers, also does this. So
I think it just rolls off the tongue better. Jillian Roberts rather than Jillian Roberts' son. Like it's an extra syllable, you know?
Very understandable. Yes, I can acknowledge that for sure. That being said, though, final choice.
Jillian Roberts'
All
son.
right. I too am taking Jillian Robertson, an honorary Floridian, even if she is from Canada.
Hell yeah.
All right, that will take us down to the next fight here. Iwan Kutelaba versus Umar Sy. This is an interesting matchup because both of these guys have had times where you think that they are like really the thing, and then they have had times where they're like, man, you have let me down in a tremendously crazy way.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just gonna make this one easy for myself. We know Cutelaba has had his moments where he looks like dog shit, but then he also has the moments where he can upset the prospect. Umar Sy, though, coming from France, we've talked about how he's very different from all the other French fighters. He has a very different set of skills. I think that he should be able to get this one done. Cutelaba is going to be able to negate almost all of the skills that Umar is able to showcase, but that's where it's going to need for Umar to be the young prospect that he's going to have to shine through. Cutelaba's not going to just keep upsetting all these prospects. I mean, he's 19-11 for a reason, guys. Ankalaev beat that dude in fucking one round. I'm sure other people can figure it out, so it's fine.
Sadly to say, and I want to bet on Iwan Kutelaba in this fight. I do, but I have recalled time and time again where I myself have said, I cannot bet on this man. He is an unbettable pick. Iwan Kutelaba, unfortunately, is betting poison in a lot of ways. He is a guy who you can never bank on doing the thing that you think he is capable of doing. And that's, I think, the hardest part. Because if he wins this fight, I'll be like, damn, there he goes again. But it's like you can't bank on that. And that's where it becomes such a hard thing for me to say, yes, I think he's going to win this fight. Omar Sy, we saw him lose. Was it Menefield that he lost to? I think it was Alonzo Menefield. That was the one that he ended up having that loss to, where it really like exposed a lot of like the weaknesses to him. Iwan Kutelaba is a wild man compared to Menefield. Like, if that is the correct fight that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, like Iwan Kutelaba, like he approaches fights in this very strange way that like he's just too dynamic, dynamic to a fault. It's not even like dynamic to where it's like, wow, this guy is so amazing with all the crazy shit he does. He fights like a wild man, and sometimes it works out. You just can't bet on that. It's not bankable to the point where you're like, that is going to be the thing. Could he win this fight? I definitely think he could win this fight based on what we saw with Umar Sy against Menefield, but he doesn't fight like Menefield, and for that reason, that is why I'm going to go with Umar Sy. And I hate that we're picking the same time and time again here, Chase, but the thought process does track on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yeah. And shout out to Sanjay. Kutalaba is like the Raiders, never bet on their games. You know what I mean? Like there are certain teams, there are certain players, certain fighters that it's just like, you can do it. Anthony Smith was this exact way. Angela Hill. I call it Angela Hill syndrome.
Mhm.
Angela Hill is a fighter where she loses when she should win, wins when she should lose. It's a big grab bag. You never know what you're going to get. Kutalaba falls into that camp.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely will stay away from this one as well.
Yeah, definitely staying away from it as far as like actual betting goes, for sure. All right, next up, Down the line here. Oh, your boy is back. This is Jose Miguel Delgado versus Andre Fili.
Well, I mean, what can you say, guys? You look at these two names and you already can see the fate of Andre Fili. And if you haven't noticed, Andre Fili has the classic checkerboard record where you lose, you win, you lose, you win. He's coming off a win, brother. Jose Delgado, first round knockout. This dude has a 100% finish rate other than the loss that he has to Nathaniel Wood. He has just been killing it, in my opinion. I think this dude is very talented. I think he's young. He's kind of right in the young age where he's like old enough to understand that he doesn't have all the time in the world. We got to make shit happen now. He's going to come out here and finish Andre Fili. I've seen Dan Ige finish Andre Fili. Jose Delgado is going to make it. This is going to be a crazy fast performance. I would love to believe. I mean, for what he did to Hyder Emil, yeah, Andre Fili is toast.
Again, it's like I really wish that there was some galaxy brain pull on this, but Andre Fili is like, I mean, I know it's a touch point and it's one that I've brought up many times, but seeing Andre Fili get jump gillied by Melchizael Costa and it's sticking to the point where he lost that fight, I was like, there's just too much. There's too much not there with Fili. And Fili's been around. Like, Fili is 25-12, people. This is a veteran fighter. This is not a dude who is going to be expanding and growing and getting better at any time at this stage of the game. If he is not where he needs to be now, he is not going to be there. Delgado on the other side, 10-2, much younger prospect, a dude who we've seen be great already, even in defeat. I think it's pretty clear what's going to happen here.
I didn't bring this up the other week and I completely forgot on the podcast, but considering Jose Delgado is up right now, I want you to believe that the only other guy that has beaten Jose Delgado, other than Nathaniel Wood, of course, was the same guy who beat Javier Reyes in the regionals. So isn't that interesting? That's an interesting one.
Certainly is. Good pull. But yeah, I mean, again, going back to this fight, I mean, really, it comes down to what you have already seen from both of these guys. Andre Fili has never been it. He's just never been it. It's unfortunate. I don't think he's a bad guy. He seems like a cool dude, good guy, all of those things. Guy who's out there trying to feed his family. A lot of respect for the guy as a human being. As a fighter, he's not the guy. So I mean, I don't know if Jose Delgado is going to rise up to the heights that you think he's going to chase necessarily, but in this fight, I think that it's definitely the old being sacrificed to the young. It's going to be a pretty easy walk away for Delgado.
Absolutely. I love this one.
So yes, unfortunately, news, we have been picking the same for all of these, but there's going to be one I'm sure that we will differ on. So you wait for that. And when you do hear us differ, we are streaming to our individual channels. I am at youtube.com/@YamaShow. Chase is at youtube.com/@CPSmalls. You go to the stream of the person that you agree with more and you like that stream.
Absolutely. Love to hear it.
Well, next up is another one that I think we're going to be picking right in lockstep with. This is Marwan Rahiki versus Harry Hardwick. Rahiki, a dude who's coming off the Contender Series, one that I vividly remember from the Contender Series, versus Harry Hardwick, who is coming off of a TKO via leg kicks.
The thing that is interesting about this, now, I obviously do not want to be the guy to pick Harry. I don't want to. He did not show that he had much grit in this game. He was one of the more vocal prospects that would talk about Anthony Smith, and then he comes out here and looks 10 times worse than him, actually gives up in the fight. Obviously leg kicks, they add up and, it hurtful kind of deal. But it was not the performance that you were expecting coming from somebody who was shitting on Anthony Smith for their performances kind of deal. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have Rahiki, where if you guys recall, this guy almost, and potentially with any other ref in the situation, would have got finished in the first round in his Contender Series bout. Now, he didn't, because he has got a tremendous amount of heart and a lot of grit, and he will fight through almost about anything is what it looks like to me. That is just the complete opposite of Harry Hardwick. So I would love to believe that Rahiki would be able to win this one. Even if he did get in trouble, he would fight through the adversity and still end up winning. I don't know if Harry Hardwick is going to be able to put Rahiki in the compromising position, but he is still 7-0. We're still learning a lot. I mean, guys, he got dropped with the same shot overhand in his Contender Series fight, dropped him to the mat, one round apart, and he fought through. But guys, he almost got finished like very, very easily from the same setup shot. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. As they're showing the replay in the bottom left, you're watching him get hit with the exact same shot. It was a little unfortunate. It has me questioning, but he is 23 years old. Australia slash Morocco, these are tough, tough guys, and I think Rahiki's going to get this one done.
God damn it. I was hoping you were going to stick with the Hardwick pick. Yeah, I know you didn't lead with it, so I was already kind of hoping you were going to switch course there. But no, you're right. I mean, Rahiki, you're correct about what happened on the Contender Series. But what I took away from that was that up until that point, 6-0 going into that fight, hadn't really faced any kind of legitimate adversity in his earlier fights. I mean, I think that they had said that all of his fights were by finish, I believe. Don't quote me on that one, but I mean, like my point is that he really had never like been through the fire and the flames based on what it was sounding like, if I recall correctly. What that showed to me was that he actually does have the grit to take those shots. He should not have taken them back to back like that. That is definitely true. There is improvement to be made. But at 23 years old, he has the time to make that improvement. A fight like that hopefully opened his eyes to that, hopefully opened his team's eyes to that, make him a little bit more aware of what he could be encountering in there, especially now going into the UFC. Harry Hardwick, on the other side of things, is a guy that we saw take leg kick after leg kick and have to be wheeled out of the arena. He had to be stretchered out of the building because of the leg kicks that he took. I cannot abide by a pick of something like that. I'm not saying that Marwan is going to go in there and kick his legs to the point that there is a repeat of that, but I have seen Marwan Rahiki go through adversity and come out on top. I have seen Harry Hardwick go through adversity and not.
Yeah,
I, there's
absolutely.
there's my choice. So yet again, unfortunately, we are in lockstep, but it comes from a good place.
Absolutely. Now this next one, I think that we're gonna pick different.
Okay. Oh, all right. Yes. Yeah. Now I'm very interested then if you think we're going to pick different. This is Vitor Petrino versus Steven Asplund. Of course, concrete. You know that we are fans around here. What are your thoughts here, Chase?
Well, I want to give you context before we go into this. I want you to understand that recent photos and YouTube vlogs of Vitor Petrino have been showing that he has an injury to his right hand.
I did see that. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that.
Now, what I will say is, at heavyweight, Vitor Petrino has morphed his game somewhat into more of a submission artist, and I really appreciate that for him because Steven Asplund has been submitted by the Denzel Freeman, if anybody can recall. Now, even if Vitor Petrino has a broken hand, I would, and I'm gonna say this lightly, I would put money that with one hand, if Denzel Freeman can submit you, I would beg to differ. Vitor Petrino could one-handedly do something similar. But that's just my opinion right there. So I'm genuinely going Vitor Petrino with an injury. And I even know he's injured, possibly, and I'm still taking him. So
Big balls on this kid, Chase Parton. All right. Well, I like it. I like the thought process. I have been even through Petrino's down times, when he kind of took the turn that was, a little bit of a skid. I always thought that there was more for him. So like when he moved up to heavyweight, I was like, this is good. I'm happy with how that's going. Like, and I saw Petrino lose live, I believe. I think that was the Jacoby fight that I saw with him.
mhm.
So, I mean, like, I'm aware of like the dynamics of Vitor Petrino. Steven Asplund on the other side, a guy who has proven that he will fight his way through as tough as he can until he cannot do it anymore. Now, if you're saying that you think that the submission heavy approach is going to be the method, there is definitely a thought process there that makes a lot of sense. We have not seen Steven Asplund tested when it comes to his submission defense, his counter wrestling or any of those kinds of things really in the UFC yet. With that understanding, I am still going to take him. So you are correct. We are going to differ on this one because I believe that to think that a one-handed man is going to be able to annihilate my guy Steven Asplund, I will believe it when I see it, and I will be very sad when it happens. I'm not saying that it won't, but again, I go with what works. I've seen Steven Asplund really put a lot of grit into his fights. So I got to believe that over time has gotten better. Maybe his submission game is no longer at the, submission defense game is no longer where it was when he fought Denzel Freeman. I got to hope against hope that that's the case. That thought process being what's going to take me forward, I'm going Steven Asplund.
All right, I love it. I love this differential here.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. There's your first difference on the card here. Maybe this one will be another one. This is Charles Johnson versus Bruno Silva. I mean, Charles Johnson coming back after a vicious knockout after already coming back very quickly another time. I mean, like, Charles Johnson does not know how to pace himself, it feels.
This one I think is a little more cut and dry, and I think this one really just comes down to what Bruno Silva, what he's capable of at his size. I mean, he sits down on his punches. This is not a dude who's gonna throw wild bombs. Alex Perez, wild bombs. He's throwing straight for this dude's chin. Bruno Silva, though, you have to bring yourself to meet him for a punch kind of deal, and I don't see Charles Johnson putting himself in that situation again. I mean, he did just get knocked out, yeah, but he's going to play this shit even 10 times more safe now, guys. What are you guys talking about? He's going to play the outside. He's going to use his hands and his feet and keep Bruno Silva way at distance. And Bruno Silva, again, the only threat that you have to worry about, if Charles Johnson's going to get chinned, you have to worry that he dips his face right into an uppercut from Bruno Silva. And that's just not going to fucking happen. So I'm definitely taking Charles Johnson on this one.
All right, then we are the same because the big stat that sticks out to me based on what you're saying and what I very much agree with is this top one right here,
Mhm.
5'9" versus 5'4". That is also paired with this stat right here, which is 70-inch reach versus 65-inch reach. Charles Johnson has the height and the length to be evasive, and Bruno Silva does not have the wherewithal to get on the inside to make it his fight. Charles Johnson is a very dynamic fighter, even at his size. Like he moves very well. He can get caught. We've seen him get caught. We just saw him get caught. But I don't think that Bruno Silva has the tracking ability to make it his fight based on those dynamics. I think that Johnson's going to be able to. I'm not even saying that the same as you, that he's going to play it as cautious as you're saying that he might. I think he might just be able to walk into it and still just use the ranged attack elements even at close range. Like, I think the long legs, knees up the middle are fine. If he has to be a little bit farther out, he can strike at distance. He's another guy that likes to pull back and strike from a little bit of a farther, that pull back forward strike that he likes to do. I mean, that's something that'll work for him in this fight as well. There's so many things that Charles Johnson brings to a fight like this that I just don't think that Bruno Silva has an answer for.
100%. No, yeah, this one will be, like I said, this one's easy choice for me. Charles Johnson should have a big comeback here, and he should be able to get back to Twitter saying that he's rightfully the champ or whatever he's got going.
Exactly. Just another opportunity to stay firmly in the middle of the pack, right there with Sumadarji.
Exactly.
All right. Then next up here, Brad Tavares versus Eric Anders. This is another, sadly, I think, pretty easy one to predict. What do you think, Chase?
Brad Tavares, he's a Hall of Famer at the end of the day. I know a lot of people won't admit this, but he's spent a lot of time in this UFC octagon, and he's just going to continue racking up records. And Eric Anders is not necessarily anybody that is very, very good. So Brad Tavares, by unanimous decision, is definitely what I'm going with here.
Yeah, again, I hate to say it. I like Eric Anders a lot. I think that he is a guy who has overcome some personal demons, and that's very commendable. Even after doing that, was underwhelming in his return fight, sadly. It just does not seem like Eric Anders has much to offer the middleweight division at this point, especially at 38 years old. Now, Brad Tavares, also 38 years old, and the record 21-12 certainly does not lead one to believe that he is a world ender, but that's exactly or that leads you to believe exactly what Chase just said. Brad Tavares by decision sounds pretty good to me. He's a guy who knows how to win fights. Eric Anders has been lacking in that department. I'm actually, to be perfectly frank, a little surprised that Eric Anders is still in the UFC. And again, I say that as a person who is a fan of him as a guy. I think he's a really good dude overall who, has had to overcome certain things in his life, and that's commendable. But at this point, I just don't see much of a path forward for him anymore. And I would not be surprised if this is his last fight.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm 100% on Tavares. I've never really disliked Brad Tavares, to be honest. He's one of the guys that I kind of just respect that he's here doing his thing, a journeyman, at its finest.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that too. I don't have any negative feelings towards Brad. I just always kind of think he's like a run of the mill guy who can win fights, but you're not going to get many fireworks out of him. And that I think is exactly what's going to happen here. I think it's going to be a decent, tough scrap. I think it's going to be a lot of clinching, a lot of, level changes that won't go very many places. The cage clinch, all of the things that you would think about like a low level middleweight fight are probably what you're going to get out of this fight. And Brad Tavares is going to win that version of the fight.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, we got to find some places to be different, but this is not it either, Chase. Chris Curtis is fighting Miktabek Orlabai. Oh, sorry, Chris Curtis. This is not going to be one where you're going to get to bitch, moan, and complain afterwards, I would say.
I mean, I really don't have much to say about this one either. I mean, Miktabek is going to get Chris Curtis down, and he's going to rip his head off. I mean, listen, Uros Medic is a very scary striker. On short notice, up a weight class, Miktabek choked him out on like his debut, I'm pretty sure. So I'm sorry, Chris. I used to be a fan. Miktabek has definitely overthrown that fandom. This guy is the real deal.
I mean, talk about a guy. We were already talking about it at the lower weight. Like he wasn't. He had to move up. Now that he did move up, he is doing the exact same thing with more weight on his frame and the same level of skill set that has been very effective for him. And also a guy who has gone to war with Mateusz Rąbecki, and was able to withstand all of that adversity. You mean to tell me that you think that Chris Curtis is going to be able to do anything that Rąbecki was able to accomplish in that fight? Please, bro, give me a break. I mean, Chris Curtis, I think that there is still like decent elements to what he brings to fights, but he ain't got shit on Miktabek Orlabai, and that's just a fact to me. I don't see a method to victory for Chris Curtis in this fight. He's not going to chin him. He's not going to be able to hang with him on the ground. You take away both of that, what does he have? Kicks? Try it, bro. Try to kick him in the stomach. See what happens.
Yeah, no, Miktabek by submission, 100%.
I'm with that. I mean, I don't know if that'll be the method. I usually don't go too far into methods with these fights, but yeah, Miktabek to get the win, I think is a slam dunk. I mean, we don't have the odds on the screen here, but I got to believe that Miktabek is a huge favorite in this fight.
And yes, Miss Didgeridoo Dave, shout out you. Chris Curtis is still in the UFC. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And that sentiment is exactly why it's probably not going to be for too much longer, I would say.
Exactly.
All right, next up is Balaji Oki versus Manuel Sosa.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
This one, I'm thinking this goes to decision. I mean, these are going to be two guys who, when you look at them, you're questioning like, how do guys get in this shape? How are they still throwing punches? How are they still eating punches? This Manuel Sosa guy, he's built like a truck. He's just got Brazilian power written all over him. He's got good cardio, very standard athlete. But Belagioki is kind of just the same way. There's nothing really that stands out to me that either one of them are going to just have the upper hand in. I think we're just going to get a very. These are two athletic people. They're going to be able to do a lot of things that you're not thinking that they're going to do. Like obviously they're going to start striking. They're going to have some grappling sequences, but the real magic is when those things happen. If we start to scramble, you're going to get to see who's going to be the more athletic freak here. And I think Manuel Sosa has a good opportunity to be a pretty good force, but at 13-1, still a little green. But Belagioki is definitely the type of opponent that you could maybe get this over on because he's just going to try to stand and strike with you. And if you take the grappling, if you have any level of grappling, you can make the fight interesting. And if you just mix in the grappling and get back to the feet, Oki's off his game already, bro. Mason Jones, he fucking did him dirty, bro. Like, and he's not even like a great talent. He's very good, but for him to do that to Belagioki, I mean, Oki must be okie dokie kind of deal, you know?
I mean, this is exactly why you are the co-host of this show, Chase. These are like everything that you said right there is 100% accurate to a T. I mean, like there has never been a better opponent for a debut fighter to showcase a skill set if you have that skill set. Like Belagioki, if you're going to power strike with him, that might be a problem for you for sure. If there is any level change ability in there, you can make this your fight very easily. And also, the other thing that we saw from the Mason Jones fight that you mentioned is that if you are facing adversity and have the fight IQ to recognize that it is time to level change, hold him down for a little while, tire him out, get him to a point where he starts to give a little bit, then you can come back from behind. Like, that's something that is completely available to you. You remember, Mason Jones had to fight back through some pretty heavy adversity to make that win happen. Now, he had the fight IQ to recognize that that was what it was. Manuel Sosa being a little bit early to the game I mean, we literally were just talking about Rafael Tobias, who was showcasing atrocious fight IQ as a debut fighter. Cannot say that I can necessarily claim that Manuel Sosa is going to have that off rip. I guess it really comes down to what attack plan he decides to take for this. But if there was an opponent that you could have a good fight and a good debut against, you want it to be Vallejos. So that all being said, Chase, what's your pick?
I'm taking Manuel Sosa.
All right. Well, I am going to, only because I do not know enough. What was the outcome of his Contender Series fight? Can you recall?
Yes, I already looked. He finished his opponent in the third round. His opponent was I believe he was from Chile, and he also trained at the Goat Shed.
And
No, he's Mexico.
what was the method?
Third round TKO.
TKO. Yeah. Man, that does put a little bit of a wrench in my thought process here. I'll differ on this one. I'll go with Bellagio.
You're gonna go Oki?
I am gonna go Oki. I think that I think that the power striking early could be the thing that'll make it. I gotta believe that the experience in the UFC will be a part of the factor. Not again, not enough data to go fully off of a Contender Series fight. Quality of the opponent comes into play when it comes to that. I've seen Oki not be great, but I have seen him throw some pretty heavy bombs in the past too. So maybe Manuel Sosa does not have the wherewithal to do what Mason Jones did. That's the thought process.
Hell yeah.
All right. Next up is Luan Lacerda versus Hetcher Sosa. Of course, Hetcher Sosa is very well known off the Contender Series as the man who pulled the victory off after overcoming some very harsh issues in his personal life.
And I this goes back to the Contender Series. Really, when you don't really know too much about Sosa, because when you look at the performance, he obviously put on a performance that made you realize, yes, he has the skills that he can compete. He belongs here. But what was he doing in the fight that made you believe that we need him in the UFC? There was not much. He unfortunately was able to secure a contract, and it was after some extenuating circumstances. So you don't want to believe that that's the reason that he got his contract, because that's untrue. He showed the skills that he belonged. He had a performance where you could tell that he was, you know, going through traumatic things. Like, it wasn't a performance that you felt like you're watching a fighter who's on his game. You could tell that it was, and even if you couldn't tell it, you shouldn't base a performance after something like that. That should not be the defining moment that you have for him. Give him an opportunity to have a clear mind, get over all the things that he's had in the past, kind of deal, and let me see him perform. Give me one performance where there's no bullshit, kind of deal. They always say, leave it at the door when you come in. It's like, it's not that easy sometimes, kind of deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really hope that he comes out and has a really good performance. I think Luan Lacerda is this is an easy fucking win. This is a jiu-jitsu nerd if I've ever seen one. I mean, he's got 11 submissions and has not been knocked out once, and he has never knocked out anybody. And Hetcher Sosa, again, I would love to believe that he's a lot better than the performance that we saw, because there were some things going on for him. The unfortunate part is that he was going to get a contract almost either way, as he just had to win the fight. He just had to win, and they were going to give him this opportunity. So it's hard for me to put a lot of stock into him, but for this fight specifically, oh yeah, he's fucking winning this shit. Like, no fucking doubt.
You think he's coming in and he's getting the dub off rip, huh?
Yes.
All right. Well, then I will also differ on this. I'm going to go with the jiu-jitsu nerd. I think that we did not see enough greatness on the ground from him in that fight to lead me to believe that he's going to be able to hang. I mean, I think that there's plenty of potential for what we saw out of Hetcher Sosa to get held down. I mean, there were moments of him having some success on the ground, but I think that it was really coming more off of his opponent not being that great, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I certainly empathize with his story. I think there was a narrative there, all of that, be the guy or the reason that people remember your fucking name. All of it's a beautiful sentiment, all of that. Put that out, that's all to the side. I didn't see enough high level ground game off of that fight to be like that's going to save him from a guy who is much better in that department. Brazil versus Spain in that department. Again, I think it's speaking to me in that way. I hope that Hector Sosa does win. I would like to see it, and let him be a guy who can come in and be great. Certainly, Juan Lacerda should be a person that you should be able to beat if you are going to be somebody in this organization. That being said, I got to see it to believe it.
Absolutely. All right. So you're going Lacerda?
I certainly am. I
Okay.
am. All right. Bia Mesquita is fighting Montserrat Rendon. What do you think here?
This one again, we don't know. We still don't know too much about Bia Mosquito. I love saying her name like that for no reason, but she is a finisher. I mean, she's got a TKO to her name, and she's got 4 submissions. She is that. Oh yeah, she's that grappling guru kind of woman. So
Yes.
listen, Rendon is from Mexico. I'm gonna go ahead and put my stock in her being able to be submitted. Although she's never been finished, so she's 7-1. I can see her first submission loss coming right here.
Yeah, Montserrat is the lady who beat the hot prospect youngin, right?
Alice.
Yeah, Alice. So, I mean, Bia Mesquita, yeah, like you said, she's got her ground game is her specialty. She is undefeated currently at 6-0. Kind of a toss up to me, only in the sense that I think that Montserrat has seen a little bit more and should be able to be aware of what she's going to be thrown at. But 7-1 is not a crazy record or crazy amount of experience for a 36-year-old fighter. I don't.
Is 6-0 for a 34-year-old? I mean,
Not either, no, but but if she's coming in with a very large amount of jujitsu experience
okay.
that kind of pushes her over the edge, then I think that kind of speaks for itself. That's like when you have somebody who has like a Muay Thai record that's super huge and then they come over to MMA. You know what I mean? At
Yeah,
least that's my thought process anyway. So I got to believe that if the skill set is as advertised from the Mosquito, then I too will pick her. I think that
absolutely.
yeah, I think that's similar to my Lacerda pick. I think that if there is a definitive skill set that you can hang your hat on, that trumps what we've seen out of the other fighter.
Okay, I got it locked in. No changes.
No changesies, no takesy backsies. All right, moving on down this thing. Elijah Smith is fighting Su Young Yu. What are you thinking?
Yes. This one will be fun. I am a big fan of Elijah Smith, and I've had a very fun time watching his latest performances. But here's what I will say: Su Young Yu is very fine with laying on people and not doing a thing about it just to rack himself up a W. We've seen Elijah Smith in a lot of different scenarios. We've seen him grapple with Vince Morales, and I thought he did a very good job. But the thing that we have not seen is him lay on his back and have to get up from that position and not just lay on his back, but have Su Young Yu laying in his half guard and side control. I think Su Young Yu, the experience that he has, I think he should be able to get this one to the ground and then make Elijah Smith work from a position that he hasn't had to yet. Yeah, when you look at the performances, you had the Vince Morales one where he was grappling with him, didn't get submitted, but he was in a lot of different submissions that were risky submission positions kind of deal. His next fight, he goes up against the guy was I forget his name, but he got slammed on his fucking head and he's shadow round.
Yeah, the Japanese guy.
Is he Japanese? Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, now we get Su Young Yu from Korea, and I think it's a different skill set. This is not a guy who's going to pull guard on you. This is not a guy who's going to go for these submissions from the bottom position. Elijah Smith is going to end up on the bottom, I would say, in a couple different of these positions, and Su Young Yu is going to rack up a lot of control time. I'm going to go ahead and say that the 23-year-old prospect might not be able to get this one done against my guy.
I think that the thought process tracks tremendously well. I think what I'm hoping now, I was very wrong about this just recently with my man Rob Font. Rob Font's a different situation. I think that if every round starts on the feet, I want to believe that the speed of Elijah Smith is going to counteract the takedown ability to the point where he can land that shot, because we have seen power out of Elijah Smith regardless of his slam abilities. The slam was great, but the slam that's a an oddball. That's an oddity
Mhm.
that's going to happen. You're never going to see another power bomb like that necessarily out of Elijah Smith. Um, Without those circumstances, we still have seen greatness out of Elijah Smith. I am going to go with the prospect. I don't know if he's going to be able to catch the dub, though. This is a tough one, man. You made a really good case for Su Young Yu based on what this is jiu-jitsu, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I want to say though that I remember talking about this guy and saying like, when have we seen the actual jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, he just named himself that. He has no jujitsu at all. He just calls himself that. I mean, supposedly he does, and maybe he actually does, but we have yet to be able to see it. He is just a wrestler. I mean, he's
Yeah.
just wrestles people.
So, I mean, I want to, well, because okay, then I guess what I will say to this is that what we were seeing out of, I believe it was Kazama was the name of the Japanese guy, if I'm not mistaken. What we were seeing out of him was a lot of wrestling and grappling attempts, and that's what led him to finally get slammed.
Mhm.
So that being said, I mean, Elijah Smith was able to hold his own against all of that and still come out and find a victory from that. Even if you chuck that to the side, I want to believe that throughout the course of a fight, if it takes a little bit of time, if Su Young Yu has to be doing that for 2 rounds, then in the third, maybe he ends up getting finished off of a speed differential that ends up, kind of him. It widens over time. He ends up starting to gas out. Elijah Smith ends up taking this thing. I will go with Elijah Smith.
You're taking Swift
I
Smith. Okay.
certainly am. Swift in the name. So, you're going to have to catch him to get him. You want your money back, chase me.
Yeah, love it.
All right. And then starting this thing off, oh, my girl Sam Hughes is fighting Piera Rodriguez. Oh man, this I don't like. But what do you think, Chase?
Why are you sitting here acting like you don't like this one? I mean, this is the easiest dub for Sam Hughes ever. Piera Rodriguez has literally DQ'd herself.
See, Chase ends up cutting out because of that haterism that he was just speaking right there. Are you back,
No,
Chase?
yes,
Oh, okay.
Piera Rodriguez has literally cost herself W's by disqualifying herself with a headbutt. And she is one of these people who joins the division, and she's a lot smaller when she gets here. So she was like an atom weight when she joined the UFC. So if you notice her picture right here, I mean, she's a little chunkier now than she really, it's not it's not the easiest thing to be an atom weight and come into this, into the UFC and just dominate. Sam Hughes has honestly looked pretty fucking good in her last couple performances. Am I wrong about this?
No, you're absolutely correct about this. But what I will say is that I went against Piera Rodriguez for the exact point that you made. Yeah, she DQ'd herself and she was a moron for it. I mean, going in for a headbutt is about as dumb as you can get. It's the most unnecessary thing that you can do. She absolutely deserved her disqualification. But then I had to go into Tampa and see her get a dub when I thought that she was easily going to lose that based on the lack of fight IQ, et cetera, et cetera. She's better than that would lead you to believe. And that is why I'm very nervous for my girl, Sam Hughes, because you are right. Sam Hughes has been on a bit of a tear lately. She is one that I said had bucked the trend. She is a person whose record is defiant of her skill set. She's better than her record would lead you to believe. That being said, we've seen better out of Piera Rodriguez lately, and in the fights that she has had since the DQ, she is. I think that she's undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. And she had a loss since then.
Oh no, she hasn't. Yeah,
So
she's 2-0 since the DQ.
exactly. So I mean, I just trust me. I do not take any joy. I am the president of the Sam Hughes fan club. I have said this before. But if we're going strictly off of what I think is going to happen in this fight, I think that Piera Rodriguez takes this fight. Oh, it hurts. It hurts, Chase.
So I'm going to tell you something, and I don't think this is going to change your opinion, but maybe it should after recent things. October 15th, 2022, Piera Rodriguez unanimous decision over Sam Hughes.
So then there you go. Yeah.
You think it'll go the same way? I mean, we just saw RoboCop get his revenge. Sam Hughes clearly wants this matchup. She
How?
wants to.
What's her win streak looking like right now, Sam Hughes? She's
Uh,
on a win
she
streak.
she's on a 3-fight win streak.
So you really
She
trying to
just
tempt me?
submitted Shauna Bannon.
That doesn't really do much for me. Yeah, I'm sticking to my guns on this one. I hate it. I hate
You're
that I
going
am.
Piera?
I am. What are you doing?
Okay, I'm gonna go Sam Hughes for
All
sure.
right, then there you go. Now that fight right there will be the one that you are. I give you a golden ticket to dunk on me if I am not correct about this one, Chase, because as I said, am the president of the Sam Hughes fan club. So if I'm going against my girl and she wins this fight, you have carte blanche. Make me feel like an idiot.
Well, what I will say, unfortunately for everybody, you're not gonna listen. You're not gonna be upset. This first fight of the night, two females. It's gonna be a banger. You
It
know it.
always is. Chase is absolutely correct about this and could be correct about a lot of these picks. So we will find out together who is correct about all of these picks on Saturday night when we have our individual watch alongs. Of course, you can find me at youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you.
Yes, you guys can find me on youtube.com/@CP Smalls, of course.
I am at Yama Show on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Make sure that you follow your boy on the socials. We will be back again. MMA on Film is coming back. I know we've been saying it a whole lot, but we're going to get to it at some point soon. This week is a little bit hectic for your boy specifically, but I'm going to make it happen when Chase makes it happen. So we are working out the details for that. Possibly some other content coming out throughout the week. Either way, we will be back for the fights. So be with us for those at the very least. Either way, you have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.